With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Ever witnessed someone so fast on track you doubt you could ever be on their level? The mission of Advanced Motorsports is to demonstrate the speed is achievable for everyone. With the expertise of some of the best sim drivers in North America, we are set to release free content on social media and comprehensive guides on our website. For those seeking the ultimate experience, our Advanced Motorsport Institute and personalized coaching sessions are the way to go. No matter your level of experience, we invite you to follow us on our social media to learn to be fast.
Every once in a while, the iRacing schedule gods decide to throw up a little bit of a wild card, and this week is one of those times. 16 miles, 26 kilometers of labyrinthine German racetrack come to the LMP3-GT4 Challenge. That's right, it's finally time to take on the Nordschleife, the combined layout at the Nürburgring in the craziest series in all of the PRL. I can't sell it any more than that. Welcome to round 6 of 2024 Season 1 for the LMP3-GT4 Challenge, and a little bit later it's the GTP LMP2 series here in the Precision Racing League. My name is Joey Tevin once again, and alongside me this week is Mr. Joe Peak. He'll have all the Nürburgring corner names for you, like I don't. He's making up for my losses. And behind the scenes is our producer Dustin Allis, as always on a Monday night. But Joe, I can't sell it anymore. I can't say the same challenges over and over again. It's the Nürburgring. Every driver in the field looked to this week probably a little bit scared, and now they got to face their fears, and they gotta learn.
And the irony is that this is perhaps the only time that they won't have to deal with the lap traffic, though. But, I mean, that's little compensation. Like you said, this is considered the ultimate test. It's narrow, it's hilly, there's every corner imaginable. Passing is at a premium. So yeah, drivers will have to be on it from the word go here today. And honestly, I think survival will probably be job one.
Yeah, survival's been the key in this series all season long, but in a little bit of a different fashion. It's more been about those traffic interactions. It's been about surviving at places like Aragon and Imola and Zandvoort, Road Atlanta and Barber, all places where there have been multiple traffic interactions in a 35-minute race. They're pretty short laps. Like Joe said, that is not going to be the case this week. It's going to be driver versus track, and you might get a little bit of traffic if you happen to spin early as an LMP3 car. Then you might have to pass some GT4 cars, but other than that, you're going to be pretty on your own today. And we are in the second half of the season. We passed the middle part last week. Algarve, Laguna Seca, and Spa coming up in the next couple of weeks, and that'll be the end of Season 1 already. It's very close to the top of the driver's standings in LMP3. Jason Drescher leads by only 4 points over Mr. Vincent Leroux, and only 10 points over David Duino. They have been going at it all season long. Jason Drescher has won 3 races out of the opening 5, but inconsistency, a bad week in round 4 means that he's definitely within touching distance, and definitely vulnerable in these final 4 weeks. Take you to the team standings as well, because those are always interesting. Jason Drescher leads the Drivers' Championship for Grant's Garage, and he also leads the Teams' Championship for Grant's Garage, because Ian Starker had one of his best races ever last week and finished very, very close to Jason, and because of that, it's almost a 100-point lead for them in what was once a very close championship battle. The Moradness M Squad are going to look to come back. They're in second. The two Rob Clark crew teams have been having some solid results recently, but they're still third and fourth. Throttle Thursday rounds out the top 5. But in the driver's standings, Joe, in GT4, this is a big championship to watch because you got the 3 A's. You got Aiden Young, Arnaud Genet, and Adam Brockway. Aiden and Adam have won so far. Arnaud's come close, and they've been going at it all season long.
Yeah, you can see just how tight it is at the top, but Aiden Young finds himself pulling just a little bit more away. From there on down, though, there's nothing between all of them. And with a race like today, I'd say it's going to be important to try and just get to the finish, because you could wind up with a shock result out there, and we could see the likes of Terrafino or Kerr suddenly jump up the order. But that is the driver's standings. As for the team standings here over on the GT4s, it's also close. In fact, I'd say closer in the teams than it is in the drivers between P1 and P2, as there is all of about 8 points between Hyperion and Miracle Flow Misfits. Moradness M Squad is a little bit of a jump back. From there, it tightens up once again with Beware Stewards driving only 4 points behind them. Team Beef, again, a bit of a jump, but then you get a whole clutch of cars close together. So, like I said, all to play for here, Joey, and drivers will have to do their best just to try and get some points.
That's all the championship points keeping out of the way. Now, before we can take you into qualifying, there's producer Dustin Allis's feed outside of his house right now. You'll notice that it's no longer raining. This was a little bit of a scary moment before the broadcast. It looked a little bit like the foggy Nürburgring did. It was thunderstorming, but we're okay. We're going to be totally clean, and we're going to kick it off with Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision 5 coupon code. Also, aren't you so happy we told the producer Dustin Allis to put that little red box over his license plate? That really saved him there. But RaceBox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, their button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit RaceBoxSimRacing.com and also get a 5% discount, also using the Precision 5 coupon code. This coverage is also brought to you by The Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat with The Butt Kicker. Moradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit moradness.com. Mr. Hedge iRacing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest, or simply worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution. A great addition to any sim room. And last but not least, Advanced Motorsports. Get ready to learn to be fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on their socials to become a better driver. And you're certainly going to need to do that to excel today. The beautiful shots of the green hell, maybe the green heaven to some drivers, in the middle of the forest, green everywhere, and then suddenly a little strip of asphalt. You can barely see it from the satellite view. It certainly looks very wide, though, on the back straight, on the Dodger Hoa. Very, very wide, but unfortunately, this is the only place on the track that is wide, and it's not a corner, so you don't really get any help from it.
No, but it is one of the most important spots, because coming off of Gallows Hill, you need a good exit, or else there's nothing you can do except just kind of sit and wait along here. Now, in the race itself, that's where we're probably going to see a lot of the passes, because naturally the slipstream is immense along there. So if you're within range, you'll see drivers likely swapping back and forth.
David Steveson, the Moradness driver, bringing it to the line. This will be his last lap. Only about 3 minutes left in qualifying. Is not enough time to make it around the Nordschleife unless you're in a fighter jet or something. Invalid for him, not invalid for Chase Wilson, the number 6, up on pole. Best qualifying result for him all season long. No questions asked there. Eric Leroy's not going to improve. I think he's found himself in race car jail somehow. But what a lap from Chase Wilson.
And also worth noting that LaRue is on the back foot a bit here. Now, I think he might have enough time to get? No, he will not, actually. So the 22 is only going to see 11th at best, but there's at least 3 cars that haven't set a time at all. And track position here is huge.
Nicholas Karangis was not very quick on that first lap. 8:09 for him is about 19 seconds off the pace, but this should be a legitimate lap time, hopefully, but it might actually be an out lap, so it's going to be a question of when he comes to the line. Will this be a legitimate lap for Nicholas Karangis, or will this just be a little bit of practice for him? I think we get our answer pretty quickly, though. This is just practice for him. No, he does cross the line. We're getting tricked by the Nordschleife timing. He does improve a little bit, and he's up at P14. Takes 5 seconds off his lap time, which is kind of an insane thing to say, but at the Nordschleife, it's a pretty decent gain.
Yeah, actually, I think that was his first time lap, as the first one got deleted. So the 311 car kind of saving his bacon, jumping up a few positions there at the last moment. Mikhail Taylor, in the meantime, just took pole away with a 7:49.4, second and a half quicker from Wilson.
The Nordschleife is always kind of a wild card of a track. You wouldn't necessarily think of it like that. You wouldn't think of the most difficult track on the calendar as a place where some wild cards can jump up the order, but Nick Taylor, Chase Wilson, both of them have been very fast this season, but they've not been pole fast in qualifying, so big laps from both of them. Cade Smith might be on a big lap here. Is he going to be able to go for pole in GT4? Brings it to the line in that number 12 Mercedes. Got to wait to see if he can pick up 2.5 seconds or more on that lap, and it's not going to go that well for him. Stay P4. Needs another 10th to beat Floyd Kerr, but it's not going to have time to do that. It'll be P4 for Cade Smith. Arnaud Genet's not going to make it to the line. Barry Sessoms, he'll maybe make it to the line. It's a race against the clock for him.
I think he's got enough time here. It's just through Tiergarten and then back on the main straight in the GP course, and you should be good. And the line comes up a little bit early as well in this version. But yeah, it's interesting to see drivers jumping around. But I think part of the reason that this is a bit of a wild card is because you get specialists at this track, Joey. So there are drivers that may be, average at other spots, so that really focus on this place.
And heartbreak for Jerome Berthiaume, as he was about 1 second from making that lap time happen, but alas, he'll be at the back of the grid in GT4 with some pretty good company. When we take you to the grid, there are a lot of drivers who were unable to set laps in GT4. There are a lot of drivers who were able to set laps in LMP3, though. And Nick Taylor for the Rob Clark crew, his first pole in the PRL, the most difficult place to put it on pole. Could he go for his first win as well? Chase Wilson starts alongside him, also looking for his first win. Then you got Christian Garreton on row number 2. He's won races in the PRL before. Doug Sorrentino off a second place last week. He's going for his first win as well. Championship leader Jason Drescher, fastest in practice, but a little bit lower than he'd like in qualifying. He'll start alongside Calvin Mayant on row number 3. Daniel Kranifus, a podium sitter in this season as well. He'll start 7th alongside Sean Romig. Eric Leroy and Matt Dinsmore round out the top 10. Greg Doucette and Vincent Leroux, both very fast drivers this season. Leroux second in the championship. He's got to look forward to keep those championship hopes alive. David Stevenson, Nicholas Karangis, Ian Starker, and Samuel Ma round out 16 starters in LMP3 today. How many of them will there be at the end of the race? That's a very good question. Down in GT4, Adam Brockway, 3rd in the championship, but he's got race wins this season. Is this when he starts to turn things around? He's certainly hoping so, as he beats his championship rival Aiden Young to pole. Floyd Kerr for Hyperion Racing, looking for his first win of the season. He'll start alongside Cade Smith. Arnaud Genet in that referee car. It's been beware. You've had to beware of Arnaud Genet so far this season, but he's going to be looking forward. Jordan Branch in that BMW, his best qualifying result of the season. William Brennan, former Supreme Court Justice, starts 7th alongside his teammate Nathan Deering. Roy Brown and Barry Sessoms round out the top 10, Joe.
Then you get into Robert McGeehan there in 11th. Teddy Lowendick going to be starting in the 12th spot. After that, Michael Terrafino starts in 29th. Unfortunately, these are drivers that failed to set a time. Adam Ostrich will be in 30th and Jerome Batom in 31st. James O'Brien starts after him with Nathan Jennings, then 33rd overall. Michael Doyle will be starting 35th, and then Will Jennings rounds out the field 19th in class.
And a lot of drivers down there, Joe, that you don't normally expect to see that deep in the field. Ted Lowendick, always a fast qualifier in a GT4 car. Michael Terrafino's been very fast this season. Adam Ostrich has been very fast this season and won a race last season. James O'Brien, Jerome Bertiome. We're going to be very excited to see those guys move their way forward through the field.
Did see a couple drivers that have put themselves in pit lane for the start. I don't blame them because it can be very scary around the first lap around here as cars try to settle in. Thankfully, they have the GP course on this combined layout to help get single file, but even still, the danger is there. It's almost like Bathurst in that if you have a wreck somewhere ahead of you, it can often be extremely difficult to avoid because the Armco is so close on either side.
I'm not going to be worrying too much about the weather today. It's cool German conditions. Drivers are going to be very happy about that. Tires aren't going to be complaining too much. But this is going to be a very different kind of race, Joe. This series, we always talk about it. It's known for chaos, it's known for a little bit of calamity, and it's known for the difficulty with these two classes of cars interacting in traffic. That's not going to be the case today. It's going to be an LMP2 challenge and a GT4 challenge for the most part. And it's almost going to be like a rally in a way, trying to survive for 35 minutes and just trying to make sure your car's still in one piece and you can actually finish at the end.
Yeah, exactly. You race the track first here. You're not trying to race your competitors as much. Really focus on what you're doing and don't worry so much about the others, other than maybe just trying to avoid any trouble if you see that they could be a danger to you.
Now remember, when the LMP3 leaders, or when the LMP3 class as a whole takes the green flag, GT4 will take the green flag simultaneously. It gets a little bit awkward at some tracks, but they should mostly be in a straight line by the time the green flag flies. And this time out, it's two newcomers to the PRL this season on the front row. Nick Taylor, Chase Wilson, both on the front row for the first time, and Nick Taylor takes the green flag to lead us to racing at the Nordschleife here in the LMP3 GT4 Challenge. Wilson trying to slot in line, trying to keep in touch into turn one, but look at Christian Garatone peeking a nose to the inside. He's not able to make it happen. Taylor very deep into turn one though. Nick Taylor holds on as Wilson slots in line, a little bit deeper on the brakes for some drivers behind, but everybody keeps it going. As on the right side of your screen, GT4 takes the green flag as well. An early jump from Aiden Young is going to give him the lead into turn one. Is Brockway going to be able to do anything? Is Kerr going to be able to do anything? It's not the same hairpin that you have on the F1 track. It's a little bit more of a 90-degree corner. Nicholas Carange coming out of the pits on the left side of your screen. Brockway and Young making contact for P1 on the right.
Yeah, and they got very close to contact there at the very beginning. A few cars hitting each other at the back of those GT4s as well. This is what I was talking about. You really need to mind yourself on this first lap, even though you do have the space here as we go side by side. And McGeehan had an issue. You can see him slowing in the background. Somebody spinning. I think that's Roy Brown, maybe.
I think that was Adam Ostrich, the flying ostrich going around through one of the first S's. He's got to wait for Robert McGeehan to come by to keep it going. Battle for the lead, though, is continuing on here. Young and Brockway are going to be going at it for the entirety of the first part of this lap. Mercedes versus Mercedes, evenly matched in the equipment, maybe slightly not evenly matched in terms of the setup, but these guys have been evenly matched all season as Cade Smith spun in the final millisecond before we cut that away, and right now Doug Sorrentino spins coming onto the Nordschleife.
It's a really bad spot because it's so blind over that crest.
Nick Taylor from the lead. Nick Taylor from the lead also spins a couple of inches away from his teammate, almost collects his teammate as he drives through. Absolute calamity from the Team Black team of the Rob Clark crew, and Chase Wilson suddenly leads for the first time.
Yeah, these LMP3s are tricky at the start before those tires really fully get up to temperature. So not surprised that we're seeing a few drivers wind up facing the wrong way here. You also have to watch out for understeer in a number of corners, especially if you're so used to qualifying.
John Romig tows it back to the pits. We've already seen calamity on lap one, and we're not even a quarter of the way through the lap. Side by side, deeper in the field, it's the Throttle Thursday drivers trying to crowd out Eric Leroy on the left side of the track. And look at Vincent LaRue trying to come onto the scene. Leroy off the road, but somehow does not hit a thing, Joe.
And that was through fluke plots, which is perhaps one of the most dangerous places on the track. I can't believe he got shoved off the course and didn't wreck it as they come through Ehrenberg. This is the new leaders as Wilson is versus Drescher.
Indeed it is. Ted Lowendick spins down in GT4. He's going to get it going again in a somewhat precarious spot, but he's watching his relative. He's waiting for the field to come by, and he'll get going again. But up front, with Nick Taylor's mistake coming onto the Nordschleife, a Chase Wilson does get to lead a race for the first time. It's going to be a very difficult situation, though, Joe, because the very similarly painted car behind him is your championship leader, Jason Drescher, coming off 3 wins in the opening 5 races this season, and he's all over the back of him for the lead.
Yeah, this is going to illustrate what I was talking about. The track position is king here as they come into Metzgefeld. That's a very one-lane corner, but as they now head into the valley for the first time in anger, I think Jason has to just sit tight until they get up to Kesselchen.
And look who's in third as well, not too far away from these guys. Daniel Kranifus is going to join the fray. They are side by side, and Chase Wilson crashes. Daniel Kranifus coming through, spins as well. Wilson and Drescher side by side through an exceptionally tight part of the track, and it comes undone in very big style for Wilson. Kranifus is out as well. Jason Drescher boasts a comfortable lead now, but it's been chaos on lap 1 so far.
Few drivers, I think, could show a little more patience here on this one. And Drescher's going to take advantage of it. I think Ian Starker also here off course in Defense Valley,
no.
and right with him, Eric Leroy has a separate incident that blasts him into the nose of that car.
Eric Leroy says, I want to go bold. Make Calvin Myant has spun from second. All of the underdog stories, all the drivers much higher than we expected, have run into trouble on lap 1. He's going to get it spun around eventually and get going again. But Jason Drescher started 5th. He's in the lead. Christian Garatone started 3rd. He's up to 2nd. Matt Dinsmore started what, like 10th, 11th or something? He's up on the podium. LaRue started 12th. He's up to 4th. What did we say, Joe? Survival's going to be the key today.
Exactly. Ma has gained 10 positions. I'm not sure he's even passed any cars. We're going to get a little bit of a battle here for 7th in the LMP3 side by side. Somebody's got to give way here. You cannot stay side by side through this part of the circuit. It's called Bravery Corner for a reason coming up, and thankfully it looks like Stevenson's going to give it up.
The DS battle, Doug Sorrentino, David Steveson, they'll be able to keep that going for a little while longer. While we were looking at all the calamity in LMP3, there's actually been a change for the lead in GT4. Aiden Young has retaken the point. Brockway's down by about 2 seconds. I don't know if that came down to pace. I think there may have been a slight incident for Brockway. He's totally lost touch with the lead, and now he's got to look in the rearview mirror because Floyd Kerr in that very nimble Porsche is looking to take second away.
This is one of those tracks where you're probably not going to find as much of an advantage between the different makes of cars. It is all down to comfort at this track, as Barry Sessoms also has a bit of a spin farther down the order. Looks like he's going to take a tow to pit lane, so it must have been some critical damage. But yeah, when you pick a car for this one, it is basically, what do I feel the most at ease driving?
Yeah, what will I survive in? Doug Sorrentino is certainly still alive. He's going to get by Samuel Ma. Seemed like fairly straightforward stuff, but Samuel is one of those drivers who's absolutely trying to keep himself alive. He's been an open wheel driver in the PRL for the longest time until this season when he said, you know what? I'll pick up a prototype. Why not? I'll try my hands out in the LMP3 car, and he's been very consistent this season, very good at keeping it on the track, and I have to imagine that once David Steveson gets close enough to go for a move, I don't think Samuel's going to be too worried about holding that spot. He's worried about making it to the end of the race. Nathan Deering and Michael Terrafino side by side. Vincent LaRue's off the road for good measure. Welcome to the club. Samuel Ma will get by him. Deering and Terrafino still trying to make it side by side, but the cow car, Michael Terrafino's going to hang on.
So we watch from on board here. This is up towards the top of the hill where it starts to come back down here shortly, and you can see just how bumpy this place is. And on top of that, look at how tall the curbs are as well. You really have to know which curbs you can get aggressive with and which ones you can't.
We're already in the mountains, and they decided to add a couple of extra mountains to the edge of the track. We've seen some two-wheeled moments this season. We've seen some near flips this season, and I think we might see our first real flip today if something goes horrifically wrong. Back up closer to the front, Doug Sorrentino's charge forward continues. I think he was P10 about 2 minutes ago, and suddenly he's in the fight for P4, and it's not going to be much of a fight. Using the draft on Greg Doucette, straight line speed in that Rob Clark crew number 31. He'll take the lead of this battle back. He'll take back P4, but this straight's long enough, Joe, that Greg Doucette's going to try and fight it back.
Yeah, he thought about it, and yeah, that's one of the weird things about the Dottie Nerhoa. It's so long that you could have someone pass you, and then you could fight back in the slipstream. As you see another little side-by-side coming up into Tiergard, and this is a very tricky set of chicanes in here because it basically tightens as you go, so it tempts you to try and take it deeper and deeper each lap.
So one lap is finally in the books. We can take a little bit of a breath. We've survived it. About half of the LMP3 field has survived it. A little bit more of the GT4 field has survived it. It's only going to be about a 5-lap race today, so strategy is going to be pretty narrow in terms of the window. We're on lap 2 right now. There will be a pit stop required by the laws of physics. You definitely need to put fuel in. I imagine that in about 7.5 minutes, you'll see most of the field split this race in 2, but who knows? You could come in on lap 2, you could come in on lap 3, could even come in on lap 4. Wow, what a pit window, what a selection.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a little bit more truncated compared to other tracks. You mentioned it, here these GT4s are not seeing nearly as many retirements as our LMP3s that have dropped like flies, unfortunately, today. As we watch the battle for 8th down in this class, that's Jennings versus Deering, and they're going to head into those final few chicanes, but Deering not nearly close enough to try anything here.
All Nathan battle. How often do you get to see that? The Porsche of Nathan number 2 versus the Mercedes of Nathan number 1. Deering was a little bit further forward in the field, so he's definitely going to be riding a little bit angry right now, riding a little bit aggressive, but straight line speed not really his friend down the front stretch of the Grand Prix circuit. Under braking into turn 1, Nathan's going to be a little bit later on the brakes, a little bit squiggly on the brakes, though. Even from that helicopter view, you could see him getting all sorts of out of shape into turn 1.
Yeah, there's a little kink on the entry into there that can sometimes throw you off a little bit as you have to just nudge the car off to the right-hand side if you want to really keep it as wide as possible on the entry. So that may be why we saw him have a little bit of a hiccup. But here with our leaders up at the front here, it looks like Young is starting to pull away. It's up to 2.5 seconds over Brockway. Adam unable to get him any closer.
And this has really been Aiden Young's car, I think, this season. He's bounced around in the PRL before. He's raced in GTP machinery. I think we even saw him in a little bit of GT3 competition for a little bit, but he's picked up this Mercedes in GT4 this season, and he's won the last 4 races in succession. It might even be 5 in a row here today. He's certainly found, I think, the style of racing that really suits him in the PRL. Hopefully this is going to suit Nathan Jennings and Nathan Deering for that matter, because they've got Cade Smith behind him. Remember where Cade qualified. He was P4, lost all of that with a spin on lap 1. He's angry looking forward. Nathan Deering's angry looking forward. No worries, Nathan Jennings. You just got 2 aggressive drivers behind you. Don't worry too much about it.
Exactly, and they're probably eager to try and get by now instead of waiting until the Nordschleife, which is coming up quickly here because you just got this one chicane. And then you've got your entry. Now, left-hand side, we've wait on board. You can see how blind it is, like I was talking about with that wreck on lap 1. Can't see anything. Can't even see the wall until you exit.
It is starting to get a little bit foggy, Joe. We talked about this in practice. It was almost invisible, the amount of fog. It almost looked like snow at times. As if this place wasn't difficult in the full light, in the full brightness of day. It's starting to get a little bit later into the day. The sun's starting to go down, and the fog is starting to set in. It's going to be like a nighttime drive through Tennessee or something. You're not going to be able to see anything in a couple minutes.
That's a very apt description because we do have to remember this is in the mountains, so this is a lot like the Appalachians here, as you're going to get a wide variance of weather. As it looks like Deering's got a good, Smith has a good shot on Deering. Oh, you don't want to do fluke plots too wide, and Deering loses that game of chicken.
Cade Smith around the outside, put that one in the highlight reel. That was incredible. 4 wheels off the ground, land it back on the circuit, and then send it around the outside. Sounds simple when you say it like that, but I'm sure Cade Smith is, his heart rate's going up a little bit right now after making that one work, and he can look forward now to catch his fellow Mercedes of Nathan Jennings. We do have the carousel of entertainment ready from lap 1. There's been so much going on. Oh, there's even more going on now as Cade Smith goes Tony Hawk Ollie style over the curb. I think he's okay, though. And I think we do have a couple of the moments that we saw briefly on lap 1, but we couldn't put our full focus on because we weren't quite close enough. It all started with Robert McGeehan at the back of the field in GT4. I think this might be the least exciting one we see, Joe. Just a little bit of a fender bender, I-95 style into turn 1.
Oh, but he spins it afterwards, so that will frustrate him even more. Unfortunately, yeah, there's a huge checkup usually on that first lap into the opening chicane. You have to give space there.
Had to do a little bit of fan service there to make sure the people at home could see their boy Robert McGeehan. Unfortunately, it wasn't as positive of a showing as we wanted, but he's still out there. He's still P14, and he could still very well make it to the end of the race, even with a little bit of damage. So that's the magic of the Nordschleife. Get your damage out on lap 1 and just try and make it to the end of the race with however much damage you have. A finish is a finish.
Exactly. So we got a replay of Sorrentino from above. Hopefully we can make it out. Oh, yeah. Just got on the throttle a little too much with those tires still cold, spun it around. He's actually extremely lucky that everybody was heads up and stayed to the inside as we come back live and Smith has given up that hard work immediately.
Oof. Make sure we don't put this part in the highlight reel. Just keep about 30 seconds ago. That was good. That's not quite so good. Back to the battle for P3, though. Doug Sorrentino, you just saw him. Sort of an embarrassing moment on lap 1. Did exactly what his teammate did, spun out on his own doing. But there is no shortage of time to have a recovery drive. Still 20 minutes to go, and he's trying to steal this podium away from Matt Dinsmore. Coming up the hill, you can visibly see how close he's getting. He's not going to get an opportunity through here to actually make a move happen, but you know that the first chance, the first sniff of an overtake that Doug Sorrentino gets, he's going to be going for it. He wants that podium.
All he really needs to do here is stay close enough that he can get the slipstream down the Dottinger Hoa, because they're approaching that quick. This is through the Beloff S's right now. Basically, they just got the Carousel and Gallows Hill, and then they're onto that long straight. And I think he's within range here at about half a second. And well, let's hold off on this replay. I think we got spooled up because there's a little look. And now that we get to the Dottinger Hoa, it's going to be a very simple pass, so we can focus on this replay.
Doug finished finished second last week. Forgive me. So third place this week would be a fairly competent double podium for him, and it's going to be a fairly competent overtake here. Pulls to the inside of Matt Dinsmore. A little bit of NASCAR-style side draft. That's what you got to do. But it's not as straightforward as we thought, Joe. Maybe a little bit more downforce on the Rob Clark machine of Sorrentino. He's not actually able to make this move.
Yeah, that's a bit of bad news for him, unfortunately. So he's trying his best, but now he's going to have to see who's the latest breaker coming into Hohenron. And it looks like Dinsmore doesn't want to fight it anymore. He'll allow Sorrentino through.
You cannot blame him for that one. You know Doug's fast. You know he's got the downforce in the corners. Probably best to let him go and not ruin both of your races. But that should be that resolved. If Sorrentino's able to drive away, he might be under attack into turn 1 with the straight line speed of Dinsmore's throttle Thursday number 3, but a little bit too far back. About 3/10 back is not close enough to go for a dive at the Nürburgring. This was the big money situation, though. This was lap 1. Drescher and Wilson come together ahead of Kranifus. Kranifus gets collected. We already know he's unhappy. We know Chase Wilson's unhappy too. But we've definitely got to see a little bit further forward there. And we know Drescher and Wilson going side by side there was probably not going to end well, but did either of them give enough room? That's the real question.
Well, and Kranifus's remark, I think, sums it up. I agree with him. That was too aggressive of a move on the very first lap. He would have had opportunities if he just stayed patient and waited for one of the long straights. Can we get another angle on it here?
Yeah, that's Jason on the right side, on board with Wilson, and I don't know if that door was fully open.
I mean, it sounds like we got drivers having pit stops here, but yeah, I mean, coming down through Spiegel Curve, that is extremely single file. I don't see why you'd think to try and make a move into there, because right after that it's hit miss, which is this super fast downhill sweeper with 3 apexes. So it just seems kind of like too eager, too bold of a move. unless it was the race win on hand here.
And there it was from the helicopter view. Two unhappy drivers, and the driver who was probably the least unhappy in that situation, Mr. Drescher, did end up with the lead from there. So I'm sure the stewards will investigate. That's the magic of the Precision Racing League. After the race, there are stewards investigations. They'll look at every incident if it's protested, and they will issue penalties if necessary. So we'll let them do their job. We'll let them get down to business there. Sorrentino's going to be looking forward at a 13-second gap. He'll have a while to try and resolve that. Pit window in GT4 is now open, though, as Young is in, Brockway's in, Kerr is in, Genet is in. I don't know if this is going to be a pit window, Joe. I think this might just be a pit lap. I think everybody's pitting on this lap.
Yeah, I'm watching behind them to see if anybody is willing to stay out, and it looks like the answer is going to be a no. So it must just be too narrow of a window to try and stretch it out that one more time around. But you can still have a good in and out here, so it's a good idea to try and practice that pit entry and exit.
That's good stuff from Adam Brockway, though. Remember that gap under green flag racing was about 2 seconds, but a much shorter stop from Brockway is going to keep him very, very close to the back of Young. Made up a second alone on pit lane. The race for the win might be back on.
Wow, great stuff by Brockway there. Yeah, he's keeping himself in touch. All he needs is a little mistake from Young, and I think he should be close enough he could start pulling him on some of the long straights.
Got to be careful. First lap out of the pits. Car's much heavier than it once was, and the pressure always seems to be felt when that gap comes down, kind of mysteriously. You had a 2-second gap. You were comfortable coming into the pits. You're not so comfortable now, and you're especially not comfortable now. Remember what I said about the visibility, Joe? It's coming down as well. This could be a blind battle. I hope you got everything memorized.
Yeah, the fog is starting to thicken up a little bit.
It looks like Dune.
I don't think it should be too much of a problem because it's not so thick that you can't really see what's up ahead. But if you're relying on a few other visual markers, you're not as familiar, then maybe you could get a little bit lost. But I think at that stage, you probably shouldn't be on the track as we watch them finish up the GP course here. I think the bigger problem is more if it goes fully tonight, which I don't think the race is long enough here that we'll completely lose the light.
Yeah, we only got 15 minutes left. We'll definitely have a little bit of sunlight left. You see the Christmas tree lit up on the left side of your screen. All of that green kind of tells you the story of the LMP3 day. Jason Drescher, even with a little bit of bulldozing on the front end of that LMP3 car, he's up 4 spots. Garatone up 1, Sorrentino up 1. Doesn't really tell you his whole story. He's more like up 9 after what he lost on lap 1. Dinsmore, Doucette, Steveson, Tales of Survival, and then down at the bottom, it's all those drivers who ran into bad luck on lap 1. It's massive losses for a lot of those drivers. In GT4, it's a similar story. Everybody in the top 10 has gained spots. Everybody outside of the top 10 has lost spots. It's funny how that works.
That's kind of why I think we saw some drivers start from pit lane, because they knew that lap 1 was just going to be so full of madness up in front of them that they just decided to hang back. They'll pick off a bunch of spots, and then if they got the pace, they can try and run down some of the cars farther up that survived.
A couple of damaged cars down pit lane. Vincent LaRue is getting some lengthy repairs, so bad luck for a championship contender there. And Ted Lowendick is down pit lane as well. He was already last in GT4. I'm not sure what happened to him after his spin on lap 1, but he's getting repairs as well. So there's your updates for all the Lowendick and LaRue fans in the chat. Brockway, though, still within a second. He was keeping pace with Young, I think, in the previous stint. It may have been about 2 seconds of a gap, but he was keeping it at 2 seconds. And now that he's within a second, now that he's even within half a second at some times, he's within draft range. He can continue to bring that gap down, and he might actually have a chance to go for a little bit of revenge and end this reign of terror by Aiden Young and make sure he doesn't win 5 in a row.
The only downside is that these GT4 cars don't have as many aero bits as the GT3 brethren, so it's not going to cut as huge of a hole in the air. You won't see them come from as far back as we do with the LMP3s and such like that. But it's still definitely going to be enough that it's now 0.5 of a second back gap. Each time they come along with these long straights, he's going to continue to chop away there.
I thought we weren't going to see traffic interactions today, but suddenly the pit stops and the damage have managed to equal out in a way that poor old I believe that's David Stevenson, since he's the only more Adness car left on track, so it must be him. No, it's Eric Leroy, the other one. The other one's still out on track. Never mind. David Stevenson's all alive and well. Eric Leroy making his way through the GT4 leaders, and I'd say holding up Aiden Young a little bit there. Got him offline through the fast chicane, and that lost him a couple of critical tenths. That's going to get Brockway even closer.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't want to sit around forever, so I don't blame him. I think he did it at a decent spot, but poor Aiden Young, he knows that this is going to be a tough task here, especially once they get up to Kesselchen now, because Brockway probably going to be able to at least get to his bumper. Depends on how aggressive he feels, if he wants to try and pass now, or if he wants to save it for the last lap.
And the reason that Leroy ended up in traffic there is because he had damage earlier, he had a long pit stop, he's about 3 minutes 30 behind, but I choose to ignore that true information, and I choose to generate my own misinformation, and that's that Eric Leroy was so far ahead in the lead of this race that he had to catch GT4 traffic before anybody else. But in reality, speaking of LMP3 leaders, our race leader, Jason Drescher, is down pit lane. Is Christian Garatone going to do the same? Yes, he is. It's LMP3 pit stop time. The pit window is now closed.
Now, what's interesting about this is that when they come back around, it looks like it's going to be, what, about 3 minutes extra? So, and if they're not lapping those GT4s need to make sure that they put enough fuel that they're going that full other lap around and not a lap less than like normal track like we see in this series.
That was a good move from David Stevenson there to get by Greg Doucette right before the stop. Doucette get a little bit squirrely on the brakes, locking up the rears, but no harm, no foul. He gets things going again. Race leader Jason Drescher is back on the warpath with a comfortable lead over Garatone, but not that comfortable necessarily. About 4.5, 5 seconds. Once again, much lower than we saw before. Jason Drescher lost about 5 seconds in the box.
Interesting. Not sure why he was that much longer in there, and at least he had as big of a buffer as we see here, so that's helping out Drescher. But regardless, we've seen things can end in a hurry around here, so watch out for Jason, because he's got to stay focused for these remaining 10 minutes.
Back to Young and Brockway. Brockway brought that gap down under half a second on the previous lap. Wasn't actually able to do anything down the long back straight, though. He's only got 2 more laps to actually make anything happen. That's how fast, in a way, this race flows by. But it's also probably going to feel like an eternity, trying to make it through this middle sector, trying to stick with Young, and trying to make sure that that last corner, which is basically the most important one, onto that back straight, actually does him well and gets him within draft range. Because right now, he's within touching distance. He's not within passing distance, though. Not even the biggest draft in the world, on the longest straight in the world, can make up 7 tenths.
It might bring him in enough, honestly. It depends on their wing settings. We'll have to wait and see. It is Merc versus Merc, so they're at least on even footing in that realm. But I think if Brockway gets a good enough exit, it's down to 0.5 of a second. He's still got a realistic shot. They're going through the Beloff S's once again here into Swallowtail. This is definitely a place where you can make up ground if you're aggressive.
I should admit, Joe, that I don't know the setup differences between these two Mercs because the details are very murky.
So is the fog right now, but as they come through the mini carousel, wow, down to 0.3. Yeah, Brockway is definitely much stronger on this portion of the lap. He's easily going to be able to pull him in. Now, the other thing that we saw with the LMP3s, sometimes it's not even just down to a difference in the wing settings, but just the fact that they're both going so fast for so long. When he pops out, yes, he might have momentum, but not enough because the cars aren't powerful enough, and they both just kind of stall out hitting top end.
Fog may be murky, but I think Aiden Young might be begging for mercy here. Look at Brockway coming in the draft. Young parks it in the middle of the road, forces Adam to decide, do I want to go to the left? Do I want to go to the right? Eventually he decides the left is the way to go, and I think with a nose ahead, Adam Brockway is indeed clear, and he's going to retake the lead in GT4. It is by absolutely nothing, though, and coming through these final couple of corners, Young is going to be within touching distance. Remember how late he was on the brakes into turn 1? He doesn't even need to be late in the brakes into turn 1. He just needs to slightly beat Brockway on the brakes into turn 1 to have another shot at this with 2 laps to go, or maybe even 1 lap to go.
I mean, honestly, if I'm Aiden Young and I don't think I have the speed to try and run away from Adam here, I'm just going to sit behind until we get around to the last lap and try to snipe him. He doesn't like my advice, though. He's going to try it around the outside of the opening chicane, which switches back to the inside, but he's pinched down, and Adam's going to be able to hold on to it.
Luckily, there is lots of room through there, so no contact made between these two, but it's going to be a little bit of a waiting game now for Young. I don't know where Drescher is on track, so I don't know if this is going to be 2 laps to go or 1 lap to go for these guys, but one at the line potentially. So I think we may just have to add an extra 7 minutes to the race. It's not a 35-minute race anymore. It's more like a 42-minute race for these guys.
Well, and that's what I was talking about. See, in a normal condition where it was just the GT4 class, they would have gotten that white flag. But because it's going based on the LMP3s, they have to follow them around that whole extra lap.
It'll be fun times. Young, not close enough to make a move into the Versteiner curve, but we'll definitely tune in to these guys for the entirety of the lap, Joe, because this is essentially the closest battle on track. There's a couple of drivers within 2 seconds of another, couple of drivers within 1 of another, but it's been traditional Nordschleife in the way that it is drivers racing the track. It is surviving and running your own race. That doesn't always lead its way to wheel battles. This has, though, and that's why this is so special.
And you can tell the haves and have-nots in terms of pace, because Drescher and Garrettson, they're 22 seconds ahead of third places. Man, big defense here. Adam does not feel safe. He's been trying to block off Aiden at a lot of corners. Again, I don't know about that, because if anything, if I was Adam, I would kind of let him back through. Like I said, I think Aiden, his best bet is to sit and wait as we ride on the nose. Yeah, look at how easily he's staying up with him right now.
Bad news for fans of Samuel Ma. He's had to tow back to the pits, but more pressing things are happening from the onboard bumper cam of Aiden Young. Very much later on the brakes coming down the hill there. I have a feeling we might see that very popular shot, Joe, where Young gets so close to the back of Brockway that he actually enters the rear end. I think we're going to be dealing with inches here. We're not going to be dealing with 1/10 margins for long. Young is hunting, and he is all over the back of that number 142.
Yeah, this is coming up through Cottonborn here, trying to see if he can just hold on to the back of him. I don't think he's going to make a move. No, he is going to poke his nose out. Oh, don't go too wide through Schwadenkreuz. Is he? Yeah, okay, he backs out. This is the Swedish cross. It's flat out, and it's got a crest on the entry. It's not really a corner you try to pass at.
Not a place you want to run side by side, and we've seen at that very corner a little bit earlier today, GT4 on GT4 violence. They took each other out, but they survived this time out. A little bit of breathing time, one of those short little straights on the Nordschleife where you can take a little bit of a break, you can take a little bit of a breath, and then suddenly you're back in full action. Brockway maybe a little bit faster through the high-speed sweepers and then through the heavier braking zones. Young switches it back. Young gets closer yet again. Is he going to get a chance to run side by side again? Sniffing the back of Brockway, exactly what I was talking about. He's not waiting up. He's bump drafting the second he gets the opportunity.
Yeah, he knows the game here. Aiden's going to sit and wait for the right time. As long as he's within touch of the leader, he's still got a shot at this win. The downside to not having the track position is that if something happens and Adam has a problem and wrecks or spins in front of you, he then has to take evasive maneuvers. You're under threat from his mistakes and not just worrying about your own, especially following this closely. But I think that's a risk that's worth taking here.
And we're watching this battle with eagle eyes, but I know who else is watching this battle very, very closely. I think Floyd Kerr, for as much as he's probably focusing on the track, focusing on keeping the car on the road, he's probably looking at his relative right now. He's seeing that the two leaders are separated by a 10th, and he, I think in a little sliver of his mind, is hoping, please take each other out. Please have a little bit of trouble. I want to get back in here. I'm 8 seconds back.
Well, and that's why Floyd can't give up here. He does have Arnaud Genet about 4 seconds behind him. This is the battle for 5th, a little bit farther down the road. So, you might say, oh, well, it's just 3rd place. No reason to push as hard. Yes, absolutely push hard. Keep yourself away from your rivals, because should something happen to these two, then you can have an easy romp to a win.
Aiden just can't decide where to go, or he actually can decide where to go, and unfortunately the decision is nowhere, because there simply isn't any place to go for an overtake here. You're coming into some heavier braking opportunities here, though, so we may have some more chances. I think we did just lose Cade Smith, Jordan Branch from the top 6 a little bit deeper down. We'll catch back up with that, I'm sure, before the end of the race. But Young, braking zone, first time, still not able to do it, but man, I don't even know what else to say. This is the most intense battle we've had all season in the most intense possible environment. The 2 championship protagonists are going at it, and somehow they've managed to find equal pace at the most difficult track to find pace.
I mean, that's what I love about the ring, is it brings out the drama in these sorts of fights. It leaves you on the edge of your seat wondering how it's going to play out as they work their way through the carousel. And as this battle for 4th, it looks like. I can't report on Branch. He just had a half spin coming out of Ex-Mula. That's what gave up the spots.
Simple stuff there from him. That's down at the bottom of your screen, the battle for 4th. Matt Dinsmore just trying to hang on. And David Steveson on what's been a very strong recovery drive, trying to take that away from him. Young, though, up at the top of your screen. The Mercedes logo's getting bigger and bigger and bigger with every corner. Brockway once again, though, a little bit faster through a high-speed kink. Young, for potentially not having the downforce, is definitely able to hang tough in the corners. A little bit of a bobble from Brockway, though, brings Aiden into contention. And I think we might run side-by-side, Joe, through Tiergarten again this time around.
Let's see if that's the case or not, because remember, they'll have that extra lap, so does he want to do it this time? Is he aware of which one's going to be the final lap as well?
I would hope so, but it's always difficult, especially with some of the race control or the time decisions we've seen this season, where the seconds can be slightly off at times. Who knows? Hopefully their virtual crew chiefs have told them the right things, and hopefully we don't see a situation like Le Mans from a couple of seasons ago where half the field ran out of fuel because there was an extra lap unexpectedly, but who knows? But through these final couple of corners on the more difficult part of the track, it's a waiting game. I can't imagine what Aiden Young's feeling right now, because you have to wait. You have no other choice. You can't go for a move at any of these places. It's just not on. You just have to be patient. You have to make sure you're sticking with them and save yourself for the actual high percentage move.
Exactly. And Drescher's already taken the white flag, as we can see in the upper left-hand corner. He took it actually quite a while ago. He's already something like 3 minutes into this lap and is on his way. He's got about 6.5 seconds over his nearest rival. I think this is just him sitting in wait here. Aiden doesn't look like he's trying to rush up to the back of that car. This actually might be a good reconnaissance mission for him to just kind of see how far back he can pull him in from.
Let's see, is he going to be able to do to Adam what Adam did to him in the previous lap? Is he going to look to the left side? Yes, he is. Does pop out at the last possible moment. Does he have the straight line speed, though, to clear him like Brockway did last time out? Brockway's trying to stick with him. Brockway using the side draft to stay side by side. Little bit of contact coming into Tiergarten. Brockway hops the curb, and he slots back in line after a little bit of rallycross. But that was brave from Young, and Brockway's got a big job on his hands to bring that back on this final lap.
Oh, that was a code brown if I've ever seen one. And they are going to have to pit a second time because of the extra lap. Interesting. Okay,
now,
so
is Floyd Kerr going to come down? Yes, he is. Has anybody been able to cheat this, Joe, and put more fuel in the previous lap? It doesn't look like that's going to happen. Kerr's in. Genet is in. I think everybody's got to be on the same strategy here.
Yeah. This is, I mean, because the cars are not set up to have that big of a fuel tank for this many laps. It's that extra stop that they need. And I think the only way someone could have maybe done it is if they had started saving from the beginning, have a partner they can ride behind. I haven't seen anybody doing that, so I'm pretty sure everybody's going to be in.
Brockway's still on pit lane. Brockway is still on pit lane from second. He's lost second. He's lost third as Michael Terrafino comes by. Michael Terrafino's going for the one-stop, Joe. He's actually been able to make it happen. It's not enough to make his way up to the lead. He's got about 5 seconds behind Aiden Young, but Michael Terrafino could potentially pull this off and steal a podium.
Aiden Young, though, with a very short stop. Maybe he was saving that much fuel. That seems like an extreme difference, though, between himself and Brockway. At first, I thought maybe Adam had a penalty, but it was only about 8 seconds difference, so surely it wasn't that.
Now we wonder, did Aiden put enough fuel in the car? Could he run out before the end of the lap? With 10 seconds of fuel, you have to imagine he calculated that, but I don't know.
So only theory I can think of is maybe Brockway accidentally had the tires ticked on.
Yeah, that's happened in many of the multi-class series this season. But I don't know. That's gonna hurt a little bit for Adam. It's not done for him. He has come out only about a second and a half behind Kerr, so the podium might still be on. But that's going to be an absolute war down there. And now we do get the opportunity to focus a little bit more on Matt Dinsmore versus David Stevenson. The battle for fourth I thought was going to be a little bit more of a foregone conclusion than it was, but Stevenson's not been able to make this move on the Throttle Thursday driver just yet. Dinsmore, defensive, and doing a much better job of hanging on to P4.
Yeah, this is a long race back from Sorrentino, too, so this is probably as best they're going to see unless someone in front of them has a wreck here. Not looking at a podium without a bit of luck on their side. Definitely going to be interesting to see who has a better run onto the Dottie Nerhoa and how they are going to approach it. And I think actually is Drescher heading there now? Yes, he is.
Yes, he is. Final couple of moments for Jason Drescher. Look at that. That is a guy committed to calm. Slightly different angle this week. We don't just get to see his monitor. We actually see the extra laptop behind him, and every other little bit of that science lab of a setup he's got.
Yeah, very snazzy looking setup. Looks like a single curved screen, which is impressive, but it's doing him well here, especially in these LMP3s, I imagine, because one thing that you don't realize about these cars is that A pillar off on the right-hand side, you can't see anything on a single screen off to the right.
This has definitely been the Jason Drescher season so far. He's been beaten a couple of times. David Duino, who couldn't be with us tonight, won 2 races, but other than that, it has been all Drescher all the time. A little bit of controversy early on in the race, but that was about 42 minutes ago, and coming to the line for the 4th time this season, Jason Drescher is victorious in the LMP3-GT4 Challenge. Sets the fastest lap of the day on the final lap for good measure. The battle for 4th is on, though. David Stevenson and Matt Dinsmore, they've saved this battle for the final moment of the final lap, side by side through Tiergarten, only a couple moments away.
I love the wipe of the brow that we saw from Drescher, getting awful close here. Dinsmore getting Stevenson trying to side draft him for a moment there. You got to be careful with that, especially on a narrow track like this. Neither's willing to give way. This is for that 4th place. Stevenson is going to go deep. Too deep, though. He's going to go off track, I think.
He's not going to be able to get on the throttle. Dinsmore sweeps back by. He's probably laughing to himself in the cockpit right now. Matt Dinsmore hangs on to P4. A valiant effort from David Stevenson to try and take it away. But alas, a little bit too much of a push in the final corner. He falls to P5. Still nothing to be disappointed with. It's been an excellent day from David Stevenson, and a top 5 for that team is pretty good stuff. Michael Terrafino's fallen off that 2nd place spot. I think he's had to save a little bit of fuel to make it to the end of this lap. Kerr and Brockway have run away now with 2nd and 3rd. Young's in dominant control. He's going to win this race if nothing goes wrong in GT4. The battle for 2nd's not over, though. Brockway wants to take at least 2nd back if he can.
I kind of expected this out of Terrafino, if I'm honest. I didn't think it was going to be possible to try and one-stop this one based on what everybody else was doing out there. And Floyd Kerr still holding on to Brockway behind him. About 9 seconds up the road. For some reason, Aiden Young just so much quicker on the pit stop, and that's allowed him to just really run away with this one. I think Adam right now is just in damage control mode, trying to take this 2nd place to get as good a points as he can.
And Brockway's definitely in championship conversation. He's definitely able to keep with Young for the rest of the season, but he's actually got to start thinking about that driver he's battling with right now. Floyd Kerr came into this race only 18 points behind Brockway. If he steals a couple more from him today, that could spice things up, and maybe a battle for 2nd in the championship. Ian Starker is trying to come through. He says, no, LMP3's not done with the day. I still got to get to the finish, guys. Let me come through. He does make it through, and maybe sets Floyd Kerr off a little bit, loses a bit of momentum. Unfortunately, not a real passing opportunity for Brockway coming up there. There may be one coming up right now. Brockway looks for it, backs out of it though, knows he's not going to be able to run side by side.
It's a little narrow through here up into Style Strecka. I'd say sit tight, wait for the high percentage moves and do it there. But yeah, Starker was actually passing him for overall position because he had trouble earlier on, but he did it in a good spot. Up through Kesselchen is definitely a nicer place to try and lap other classes.
Through the carousel for the final time. Pretty even through there. Porsche and Mercedes, they've both been testing those suspensions. Bad run off the corner though for Kerr. Brockway blows by him. That was absolutely nothing. We were expecting fireworks from this battle, and potentially the most non-exciting pass possible. Brockway blows by Kerr.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, waiting for the high percentage move. We as viewers, we always want the excitement and the thrills, but when you're a driver, you don't want to take unnecessary risks. So yeah, Adam did the right thing in that situation, and as soon as the opportunity was there, he like you said, he made it look easy.
He did. Anticlimactic, but a move all the same. And will Kerr be able to repay the favor potentially? That Porsche, not really known for being fast in a straight line. The Mercedes has definitely had the grunt and the straight line speed this season. But through the final 90-degree corners, Kerr's keeping as close as he can, I think. But yeah, 7/10ths back, now a full second back from Brockway. It's going to be a tough job to try and stick with Brockway in these final couple of corners.
Yeah, he's got too much speed in comparison, so Floyd could maybe reel him back in. It's up to 9/10 of a second. The question is if it's a long enough straight for him to finish the job down the Dottinger, and that's if he doesn't lose any more time than he already has.
Still clipping the grass a little bit. Still going absolutely 100% here on the final lap, but that's what you got to do. You can't be complacent in any part of this race. It might be the final lap. We might even be past the race time. This is basically overtime for the race. The race ended 5 minutes ago, and you still got to complete this final lap. And you don't get extra incident points for that, any extra dispensation. It's still 13 incident points in the PRL, and you're forced to serve a drive-through. 17, and you're disqualified. They're certainly playing with a couple of extra ones on the final lap, I think. I think Brockway's got a little bit of wiggle room, and he can afford a couple of grass touches.
And this is honestly a track where you don't worry about incident points because, frankly, if you've racked up a bunch, then it's miraculous that you're still out there racing. And a little bit too far behind. He's starting to pull him in, but it's too little too late. And for Aiden Young, he's already up into the final chicane here.
Yeah, Floyd's got to activate the Hyperion drive here to try and make that happen, but a couple of seconds ahead, about 10 seconds ahead, Aiden Young is coming through the final corners, is bringing it to the line, and yet again this season, the fiercely forward driver has proven himself to be a GT4 master for the 5th time in a row. Aiden Young wins in GT4 in the PRL. And that is going to be an even more dominant championship lead for the driver who came into this race 17 points ahead. Adam Brockway brings it to the line to take P2, and Floyd Kerr, a strong P3 from him. What might have been for Brockway, a potential win for him, came undone with a slow final stop. He'll come home second. Arnaud Genet comes home fourth. He'll keep himself in touching distance of second in the championship.
Oh.
And poor old Michael Terrafino, Joe. He took the risk to try and take a top 5. And unfortunately, I don't even think it's going to be a top 15.
No, he's out of fuel here.
Somebody's got to push him. Come on, somebody.
Exactly. Maybe
Ted
the last
Lowendick, come
car.
push him.
Yeah, we'll see. But it was, I guess it was worth the gamble if he had very little to lose here, but it seemed like a real long shot.
Nathan Jennings out of fuel as well. That's very unfortunate. That'll be a little bit of solace for Terrafino, I'm sure. He's not going to finish dead last, but yeah, bad luck. Bad luck all the way around for him. This is going to be a battle of the line. Nathan Deering versus James O'Brien. I think Nathan's got it in the bag, though. Give a shout out to James O'Brien, though. Didn't qualify. Started at the back of the field, and a driver taking on GT4 for the first time this season, doing a very good job and finishing very solidly in the top 10. Nathan Jennings, rolling. Is he going to beat Adam Ostrich to the line and hang on to P9? Yes, he is. Well done.
That's cutting it extremely close there. But he did make it to the line. Just unfortunately, it cost him a couple places. And McGeehan, Caranjas, and Jennings are still behind Terrafino. So somebody could still push him in, but I think we're running out of time to be able to see whether or not.
Yeah, we do have to wait a little while. There's drivers who are a minute behind these guys. So while we have these couple of moments, while Robert McGeehan gets his chance to have some TV time, we will fit in our interview with our race winner, Jason. Total dominance again at the end of it all, but a little bit of contact, a little bit of chaos on lap 1. Talk us through surviving lap 1 and how the race developed from there.
Yeah, it was not a bad start. You know, everybody kind of, a lot of people ahead of me ended up spinning out towards getting on the Nordschleife. And yeah, I was having a good battle. And then, yeah, I don't know what we need to do, but not a lot of space is given when somebody's up on the inside. So a little frustrating, a frustrating win, but, you know, I'll take it. We'll see what the stewards think of it, but we'll go from there.
Indeed, a win's a win, and the stewards have their jobs as well, but on the track, Jason, it won't change. It's still a win all the same, and we'll see you next week, see if you can go for another one.
Yeah, look forward to it. Thanks, guys.
Jason Drescher, championship leader, and still the leader today. Robert McGeehan's got a couple of extra corners to come, so and there's 15 seconds behind him, and Roy Brown has to try and make it to the finish as well. So, you know what? While we're in the McGeehan cam, let's talk to our winner in GT4 as well. Joe Peak is with Aiden Young.
Yeah, Aiden, impressive stuff there. Another win added to the tally. You wound up kind of in a back and forth, but it changed in the pit stops. What did you do differently that allowed you to jump ahead so much?
Honestly, I have no idea, because me and Adam had the same type of pit stop both times. So I mean, I don't know what happened unless he missed his pit box somehow and then had to reverse, which could have been the case, because you can't jump ahead 10 seconds just by doing a 1 second faster pit stop. Maybe two seconds, but not 10.
Yeah, very, very strange indeed. Now, I was theorizing that you wanted to kind of play this Talladega style and be the second place car in the battle up until the last lap. Is that how you wanted to do it, or did you just straight up want to be ahead at all times?
So that lap where Adam passed me, I kind of played it strategically. I was like, okay, this lap I know is not going to be the final lap. We're going to get one more lap. So I was like, I'm just going to sit behind him, and then as soon as we get to the long back straightaway, I'm going to try and pass. I'm just going to try and get in his head all throughout this lap. So when it came down to the back straightaway, I didn't get the best run, but then I just tried to stay in the draft even while he was weaving, and then I managed to get him going over the hill, down the crest, up to the final corner, and then I think he got a little squirrely on the bump there, and he did really good to save that, because I thought he was gonna crash, and I was like, no, save it, Adam, save it, Adam. even though I was competing with him, I wanted him to save it so bad, and he did. So that was pretty cool to watch.
Well, congratulations on the victory. You definitely gave us some excitement tonight.
Thank you. See you next week.
Absolutely. That was Aiden Young, Joey, our winner in GT4s.
Indeed it was, and unfortunately, a little bit of time constraints with the 10-minute extra lap we had at the Nordschleife, so we do have to take you straight into GTP LMP2, where qualifying is currently underway. So congrats to our winners over in LMP3 and GT4. We'll get to talk to some of those podium sitters maybe a little bit later, maybe next week. But in the championship so far here, it's been an excellent calendar as always. Some of the top-level prototype tracks you can ask for. We kicked it off with a new track at Portimao, Imola in the heavy rain. That was crazy. Road Atlanta was fantastic. Long Beach craziness. Mugello last week. And we'll finish it all at Laguna Seca. Lined up with the Real Life IMSA series this weekend. The Indy Road Course, which will be very exciting for multi-class racing. And just like we started it with a new track, we'll finish it with a new track at Misano. It's been dominated all season long by Sean Campbell. I don't have to tell you that story because you've heard that story all season long. The story of the season is the battle for second. Nathan Ray, Bradley Holly, Kwok Nin, Jeff Evans, Nicholas Schwartz, Pat Pelshaw, even after missing a race, they're going to be going at it for second, and that'll be GTP.5. We look forward to watching that battle over the final rounds. This is actually an exciting battle in the teams championship. Whataback have been very consistent with Bradley Holly and Jeff Evans and Nicholas Schwartz. Precision Racing Esports have not been the same. They've been inconsistent with drivers showing up. They've been inconsistent with drivers crashing. They've had the speed, just not quite the consistency. Vaporworks, similar story. They're looking to keep themselves in championship contention. Race Clutch is just Sean Campbell. I say the same thing every week. He's not going to win the team's championship solo. I really hope he doesn't. In LMP2 is close quarters up at the top of the championship, or at least it was for a while. Jack Hedgecox has taken a fairly dominant lead over Alex Crow, but I don't know if that's going to last. Crow has had dominant pace at times this season. He won his first race a couple of rounds ago in the rain at Imola. I think he's definitely bound for getting a little bit closer to the dominant LMP2 driver of the PRL. Alex Caruso in fourth can do a similar thing. He's won a race this season, and you've got the consistency contingent behind Michaels, Wood, Lehman, Pierre Richards, Leedy, and Jansen. Have all done a very good job of keeping their cars on the track this season and maximizing those opportunities. Teams Championship's very close as well. 2 points separate Go In Racing Sapphire and Lunatic Sky Lounge Racing. The Dunder Mifflin Racing Company with Marco Jansen and John Krauser might be in contention as well from the outside. And SRT, I say this every week, they've had a bad start to the season, but Chinsky and Lehman and the whole team over there, they have winning capability, and they'll definitely be in the Teams Championship fight for the rest of the season. But that's all the bookkeeping. That's all the points. That's all the standings. We rushed through it because we want to show you a couple of extra seconds of qualifying, and in GTP and LMP2, Joe, it's no real surprise to see Sean Campbell up on pole, but things are pretty close below that. Pat Pelshaw in second, John Rice and Kwok Nin for third, separated by only a couple of tenths each.
Yeah, and interestingly, this is kind of a similar situation to what we saw with the Nürburgring, where this lap is so long around here, the drivers have to hustle to try and get all four in. In fact, I've seen a few that have pulled over after the third lap, not trying to finalize it, satisfied with what they've done.
Down in LMP2, how about a new name up at the top, Zach Kerr? I don't believe, no, he has not been with us this season, has not made a single start yet. I saw him on the sign-up sheet before we got going this season and was very much looking forward to seeing him, but this is the first time we actually get to see Zach Kerr's skills in an LMP2 car in the PRL, and at the first time of asking, the Hyperion driver has put it on pole by a couple tenths.
Wow, that's something that's usually difficult to do, as actually Caruso just came within 7 thousandths of a second, so Caruso just about pipped him to it.
Bradley Holly coming to the line in his Acura. It's been a very good season for him so far. His best season ever in a GTP, without a doubt. Jumps up to P8. Solid stuff from him. Boris Ovando jumps up to P4. But with only 4 seconds left on the clock, those are going to be the last laps in qualifying. You saw Jack Hedgecox up to fourth in LMP2 on the final time, so he'll be in contention for the win as well. Definitely needed that in the dying seconds. But here is your grid in GTP. Sean Campbell, a full second over defending champion Pat Pelshaw. That's the story of the season so far. That'll be the story of the race. But the battle is on for second as John Rice in the fiercely forward number 29. He's got a contingent of fans in the chat. They'll be rooting for him to take his first podium in the PRL. He'll start alongside a multi-time winner in his own right, Mr. Boris Ovando. Kwok Nin starts P5 in the Vaporworks number 86, and Nicholas Schwartz, the consistency king over at Whataback, starts P6. Stephen Verity's back with us. He starts P7 alongside the winningest driver in the PRL, Bradley Holly. His championship rival, or second place in the championship rival, I should say, Nathan Ray starts beside him, and Jeff Evans rounds out the Whataback contingent with the very bright magenta number 51, Joe.
Then we get down to Carter James starting in 11th, as Karsten Quint will be P12, and Darian Roy starts 13th today. Johnny Luna will be P14, and Nico Zanadakis will be 15th and last of the GTPs. Then you get to your pole sitter in the LMP2, Zach Kerr, with Alex Caruso starting second. After that, it's Jack Hedgecox in third. Alex Crow starts P4. Then you've got Jeremy Carter in the 5th position. Caleb Lehman will start in P6. From there, Chip Michaels will start in the 7th spot. Luke Wallace in P8. John Leedy going to be starting the next row there on the inside of 9th, flanked by Tyler Pierre-Richards in 10th, Marco Jansen, P11, and Rob Campbell starting in the 12th position. You head on behind them to Eddie Layton in P13, Dino Vela in the 14th spot, Craig Bray then in P15. To his outside, it is John Krauser. Josh Chinsky starts the 17th spot tonight. Then you've got Nathan Mann in P18 as Andrew Wood will be starting 34th overall, but in 19th in class. 20th goes to Josh Gowen, Andrew Venaro in 21st, and Jeff Fleischman will round out your field of cars. 37 drivers rather around here tonight, Joey.
Going to be a big day. Short pace lap, so not much time to warm up those tires, but two big stories. First, it's the Hyperion drivers in LMP2. I didn't even mention them in the team's championship conversation. The season just hasn't gone their way so far, but I think they've said, you know what, you're wrong. We're going to compete for this championship too. And Kerr and Caruso locking out the front row in LMP2. They are certainly going to be contenders if they can take that 1-2 today. But up front, it's Campbell and Pelshot, a second of separation in qualifying. Is there anything Pat can do short of dumping Sean on lap 1? Well, we're about to find our answer here as the iRacing Porsche pace car takes a hard right down pit lane and the field takes control of Sean Campbell, or Sean Campbell takes control of the field and he's taking control of Pat Pelshot. An absolute jump down the front straight means that John Rice can follow him up into second instantly. It's not going to be Pelshot causing any trouble. Big lockup, though, into the bus stop at the start in LMP2. Remember, they took the green flag simultaneously, and I think that was Alex Crow throwing it off the road. Jeremy Carter, actually, he's got to serve a slowdown. He's going all the way to the back of the field in LMP2 as the Hyperion drivers sort things out into La Source for the first time. Caruso and Kerr, one by one, down the straight for the first time.
Caruso did not like the fact that he was only 7 thousandths off of that pole. He's trying to make up for it here at the start. Look at him, 3 wide in the back of the GTPs as well, coming up to Lacombe. And we'll see whether or not, yeah, they are going to get that settled out as they head into there. And poor Jeremy Carter, with that start to the race, that means he's going to have to pay back a lot of time. Squeeze in arrival off the course. Hedgecox now has to cut.
He's going to cut the course. He's going to go for the slowdown. I think he thinks that'll lose him more, or lose him less time, rather, to just go for that and rejoin the racing surface. But now he falls out of the top 3, out of the top 5. Chip Michaels gets by. The number 31 is going to get by as well of Tyler Pierre-Richards. Terrible luck there for Jack Hedgecox. Little bit of contact with Zach Kerr, who'd already lost the lead, who was already slightly frustrated. His teammate Alex Caruso has jumped him to take the lead in LMP2.
I was just saying, if you cut the course on the first lap, honestly, it's probably not better to try and do that. I mean, he did save the car, and that definitely helped him out, but he had to serve so much of that slowdown. He's down into 8th. It's always a bigger hit when it doesn't have those reference times to help you out as we watch them work their way up into Stavelo.
Alex Crow fans can breathe a sigh of relief, even though he is in a very similarly painted car to Jeremy Carter. He was not the driver who threw it off the road in turn 1. He's very much still in contention and trying to hold on to P3 as Caleb Lehman is putting the ultimate pressure on in the Caleb Lemon number 42. Zach Kerr, though, into the bus stop, not within touching distance of his teammate, and I think maybe says, you know what, I'll lift off a little bit earlier, I'll stay in line, maybe even save a little bit of fuel, and attempt to go for a move at another opportunity. They are side by side deeper in the bus stop. I think that was Josh Chinsky in the maroon car, nearly making contact with the car in front, nearly making contact with the car behind, and they'll be side by side into La Source.
Campbell gonna try and take that away and does so nicely. In the meantime, battle for second there in the GTP's Pelshot. After that bad start, he's recovered quickly. He's back up to second and is fending off Rice. He's got about 1.7 to make up to Campbell, it looks like.
Yeah, Pat definitely got caught napping by Sean on the initial start. Definitely not going to be too happy about that, but he is back where he qualified, and now he can start to look forward a little bit. Probably will be looking forward for a long while. The battle for LMP2 glory, that's going to be something to watch all race long. You got Jeff Fleischman and his teammate Craig Bray looking forward from the back. You've got Marco Jansen looking forward. There's drivers in positions where they shouldn't be right now. There's Hedgecox deeper in the order than he should be. There's Jeremy Carter deeper in the order than he should be. we're going to be seeing passes and aggressive action all day long here. Speaking of Carter, there he is, around the outside into No Name.
Wow. He's not wasting time on this one, and coming down into Puhan here. Definitely have to stay single file at this part of the circuit, which they have dutifully done as the 124 continues to try and charge back forward.
John Krauser is unfortunately out for the day, so bad news for his fans, bad news for Jeremy Carter fans right there. That was terrifying. And poor old Stephen Verity in trouble on the exit of Blanchimont. That is not a straight pointing car anymore, and I think he's going to bring it down pit lane for repairs. Jack Hedgecock's around the outside of his teammate Chip Michaels, and Alex Caruso and Zach Kerr into the bus stop once more. No changes there. I wonder, Joe, it's very early in the race. It's far too early to be talking about pit stops, but is Zach Kerr already thinking about that one pit stop in this race and saving as much fuel as he can behind his teammate?
I think that's exactly what's going on. By the way, I was able to find, I think it was contact with Andrew Wood for Krauser that cost him the damage and having him pit early. But yeah, this is definitely one of those tracks as we go wheel to wheel, and I think they banged doors coming through La Source there. And they're going to do it again on the way down into Eau Rouge. Guys are racing aggressive here.
Josh Chinsky, Rob Campbell, and good old Marco Jansen going at it side by side through Eau Rouge and Radion does not usually end well. But Joshua Chinsky's feeling the month of May. You can't quite see it at full speed, but he's driving a special Indianapolis Skyline car today as he tries to fend off Rob Campbell into Les Combes. Campbell on the outside, Chinsky on the inside. Chinsky hangs on. They're still side by side deeper in the order, though. Eddie Layton and Craig Bray going at it. Bray in the Moradness car. Layton trying to get a little bit closer to his teammates in those fellow Hyperion cars. He's going to have the outside into Bruxelles, though. Not always the place you want to be. Bray gets hit by Carter, though, and that was the best thing for Layton, actually, as Bray gets scuppered by that contact.
And I think that was actually Layton that made the little contact with Bray there, so Carter was trying his best to catch up in that situation. Vila in behind them, also kind of watching and hoping he doesn't get caught up in all of this. But, I mean, here I was just talking about how you got to play this one a little bit more cerebral and save the fuel. Everybody's acting more like we're racing at Bristol.
No cerebralness allowed, Joe. We should know this at this point. Brain cells, turn them off, especially from us in the booth. We're not allowed any of those. We want chaos. We want drama. That's what we want. And speaking of...
the inside there.
Yeah, speaking of zero brain cells, Jeff Evans, yay! I'm sure he'll love that. But
I was going to say, I hope you two are on good terms there.
We are. He painted 140 of my cars a couple of weeks ago, so if we're not on good terms, that's bad news.
Well, there's a good run from Evans, so Carter's going to have to try and line himself up specifically here to fend him off into Lacombe. He'll take the middle of the track, and he'll break a lot deeper. Almost shoves him off the course, gives a little bit of space. Evans says, thank you very much. That'll put me into 10th.
You know what? I take back what I said. Jeff, very savvy there into Les Combes. Lots of brain cells used, and very well done to get that very bright magenta number 51 up in the order. It's so bright that even with the slight glare on Carter James's monitor, you can still see it. You can still get a color picker out, and you can pick that exact shade of magenta off his monitor.
Side by side once again, coming down into Lacombe. That's a popular place to pass and make a little bit of contact, I think, there, and Chip Michaels comes out the worst of it as Wallace gets ahead of him.
Rift City in LMP2, who knew? But Mr. Hedgecock's not just the most dominant driver in an LMP2 car in the PRL, but evidently also a drift master. Who knew? Add that to his resume, and make sure we add that to the Hedgecock's highlight reel at the end of this season. He's on his forward recovery drive, I believe was as low as 8th a couple of moments ago, and now he actually sees Caleb Lehman in the very bright yellow number 42 in his sights. He can even see Alex Crow a little bit further ahead. You can never write Jack Hedgecock off of the podium, and that battle might not be over for him.
Impressively, he's only 6 seconds off the lead right now. I mean, it is lap 4, so that's not ideal, but I mean, that's not a massive gap considering he's in 5th place. If he can make some overtakes, he might actually be a realistic shot to try and go back for the win.
We'll have a battle for P6 in the more immediate future. Luke Wallace, I don't know if he's necessarily going to be in the battle. But Michaels and Pierre Richards all looking at the back of him. It was looking like it was going to be a little bit closer than that, but differences in setups, I think, mean that nothing comes quite to blows into the bus stop this time around. They'll stay single file. They'll keep trying to develop this battle over the next couple of laps. Luke Wallace doing a good job for SRT. I always mention Lehman and Chinsky as the lead drivers from SRT. They've won races for this team, but Luke Wallace has been picking up big points for them, and he's been doing a lot of the heavy lifting in the team's championship for that team. Back down the order, though, Karsten Quitt and Johnny Luna, pair of Acuras going at it for 12th in GTP.
Yeah, this is a bit down in the order of the faster class at this stage, but he's definitely hanging on to Quint, is Luna, and making him think twice about any sort of mistake that he might make. And we're going to have a little side-by-side battle for P6 now. This is with Chip Michaels. We got round 2 between himself and Luke Wallace.
Luke says Jack Hedgecox isn't the only drift master. I can do it too. Coming down into Bruxelles, a little bit of slidey, a little bit of smoke out of the rear tires, but he'll hang on to that. Chip Michaels will hang on ahead of him. But yeah, as these guys fight for 6th, you can see the gap that Hedgecox has already pulled. It's been not even a full lap, I think, since he made that move, and it's already 2.5 seconds. That's how much time that battling and running side by side at Spa will lose you.
Well, the bad news for Wallace is I believe he's got a little left front damage on that car, so I think that might be hurting him in a straight line. It's not significant, but around here, I mean, any little bent up part is going to take away a mile an hour or two down the long stretch.
These LMP2 cars are not they're not titans. They're not made of stone. They're not very strong. You can beat around a GT4 car pretty hard and it'll still run okay, but if you mess up one of those little filaments of a front main plane on an LMP2 car, or mess up the rear wing that little bit, it tends to hurt for a little while.
Yeah, I mean, they're tanks in that you can beat them around a bit, but they're not going to be fast, is the unfortunate thing. So drivers will have to be wary at a track like this. Is nose to tail, Caruso and Kerr here just basically are getting the laps in. I almost wonder if there is a bit of a truce to try and keep Hedgecox from chasing them down.
It might be the case. I mean, you don't want to get Alex Crow close to you either. That guy at Imola a couple of weeks ago, I still can't help but think back to the rain race we had. A little bit too rainy, we could definitely say. Probably not realistic. It would have been red flag, but still, you had to test the ultimate capabilities of your skill as a driver in the monsoon conditions we had at Imola. And Crow was able to hang on better than anybody else, won the race. Caruso almost threw it off the road there over the curb. He's certainly pushing. His teammate might be saving fuel behind him, but Caruso is not holding up at all.
Well, I mean, that's one of the beauties that we have about sim racing, is that we can take a Lotus 49 to Bathurst or put a sprint car at Le Mans. So safety, yes, in real life is very important, but in the sim, you know what? Let's do the fun stuff.
Exactly. And I'm still waiting for rain to come back. No wet Spa today, unfortunately, but who knows? We got a couple weeks left to go. We could have a wet race again. Laguna Seca, who knows? Indy GP, who knows? Misano, I could go for a wet race in any one of those three.
Absolutely. It's actually, if anything, more shocking that we didn't get a wet race here at Spa, and it is overcast. But like you said, I don't see anything predicted in the weather of them getting some rain, some participation here as we come around now to, well, it's only been less than 15 minutes into this race. It's felt like we've had a whole race worth of action so far already.
It does. That might be the extra 10 minutes of LMP3-GT4 racing we had. That's adding to that. We're a little bit deeper into the night than we're used to, but yeah, it feels like we've been here for a while. But Pat Pelshaw and Boris Ovando, they're going to try and wake us up a little bit. They're going to have some teammate-on-teammate action. It's Precision Racing Esports Silver versus Precision Racing Esports Blue. They're teammates and not teammates simultaneously. We'll see how that whole equation adds up here.
Yeah, so battle for best of the rest essentially behind Sean Campbell. And Ovando's doing a good job just making sure that Pat always has to watch and mind those mirrors here and there. But don't count out John Rice. He's only about a second behind them. If they start battling, he's probably going to be in the thick of it pretty quickly.
and never count out John Rice. If the John Rice fan club is here in chat, just like you were a couple of weeks ago, make sure to make yourself known. We've had the Robert McGeehan fan club in chat all night long, but we need some of those shout outs from the John Rice brigade. I don't remember who the guy was. It was like De Silva or something. There was some guy who was giving us all the inside secrets about John Rice. Apparently, don't tell anyone I told you this, Joe. Apparently he's a little short. Apparently that's what we've been told to say about him.
I have bad news for you. You've told, what do we have, about 60 people watching right now or something like
Darn.
that? Okay, so...
I can't believe I let that out.
As Ovando continues to follow in behind. Yeah, just not fighting quite yet. So this is more of what I expected out of this race. Is drivers not making it interesting for us, but trying to play it smart out there and just kind of holding in behind your rival, save some fuel, and when we get to the pit stop, see how much you can leapfrog them with a shorter stop. So that, because otherwise the slipstream is so powerful here, it's just going to be a back and forth, and that can be fun, but it isn't always necessarily as fast.
I think I've actually figured out the reason why it's not raining at Spot. Do we have the Dustin Ollis driveway cam out and ready? We'll take a look at that in a moment. Maybe it's not raining there. Maybe that's conducive to on-track conditions. Nicholas Schwartz, though, in the meantime, makes the move on Darian Roy. What did I say about the Whataback driver? He's always around. Nicholas Schwartz came onto this team specifically to race in road course competition, in prototype competition. He does the endurance events with Precision Racing Esports as well. And this guy is rock solid every single week. You don't see him crash unless he gets taken out by somebody else like last week. When he is on his own, when he is on business, he's as consistent as anybody in the field.
Roy was kind of diving to the side there, coming down into Wuhan, which is a bit unusual. Like I said, that's not really a passing corner, so I don't know if he was just trying to psych him out or what, but that was a bizarre move as Schwartz is keeping his cool, at least for now, in this Acura versus Porsche race.
It's very rare in this field to see a non-Acura. We had a couple more at the start of the season. We had a couple more holdouts, but at this point, Mr. Darian Roy is the only non-Acura in the GTP field. Even Carter James, who was in a Cadillac for the first couple of rounds of the season, he's finally given up on that. He's finally said, I've had enough. I'm going to the Acura. Nicholas Schwartz, though, bobbles through the bus stop too late in the brakes, and Darian Roy gets back by him.
That was just beautifully executed by Roy. I mean, it wasn't too dramatic from Schwartz as we got a car off at the bottom of the hill. That looks like on the exit of Wuhan. See if he can get that moving once again. But yeah, I mean, Roy basically placed himself in exactly the right spot to get that done, as Caleb is going to get it rolling again.
That's going to be heartbreaking for him. Was up in P4 in contention for the podium. But SRT trying to get their team's championship hopes back alive. Their cars currently sit 6th and 9th. That might be a nice combination, but it's not a nice combination for the team's championship for them. It's looking so good for Hyperion right now, though. I got to do a little bit of math in my head.
Sorry, Roy just got turned by Schwartz.
There he is.
Oh, no. Oh, and a bad rejoin. That'll get a wag of the finger from the stewards, I'm sure. Thankfully did not get hit. I didn't see how it started, but I looked over at my sim and I saw him suddenly getting completely turned around there.
Here's Caleb Lehman first through Pouan, clipping the curb. Oh, and clipping the start of that little green bit of painted concrete. There's a little lip there that lifts the car up, and he didn't hit it straight, clipped it and lifted that car around. So single car incident for Caleb Lehman takes him out of contention, but by the sounds of it, Joe, not a single car incident for Darian Roy.
Yeah, there's definitely contact. I mean, he had a good run, maybe just did not anticipate how good of a run it was, because there was really nothing to it that it looked like the car ahead bobbled or slid. It was just a difference in exit speed.
And Karsten Quint not going to be Darian Roy's best friend there, with a slightly unsafe rejoin, slightly scary moment, but they do get going all the same. Ovando still riding behind his teammate Pelshas, still within touching distance, but you do have to imagine if this is a similar thing to what we're seeing in LMP2. These are two teammates who are probably in communication right now. They're probably talking about strategy together. they probably don't want to battle too hard. Darian Roy does want to battle hard. He's on his recovery drive after getting turned around. An unlucky 13th is not a good place for him. The Lunatech Motorsports car of Johnny Luna now sees the only Porsche in the field in its rearview mirror, and I think it'll only be a couple of moments until that Porsche pulls alongside.
He's got the speed, he does, and unfortunately for him, there is a big problem with the internet now. They don't contact each other. That was worst case scenario for Darian, because he was trying to get as close as he could in the slipstream, and I think that scuppered him, because when the car's not read as being there by the sim, he's not getting the slipstream, so he basically just kind of rode down the straight as if he was alone for a bit.
And there's the flash of the lights. Darian Roy not happy with the way the internet has treated him. Chinsky in a little bit of trouble on the exit of the bus stop. Bad exit, maybe a spin of some sort, and it looks like a pace lap into Les Source. Jansen side by side with him, Leighton side by side with him, Craig Bray trying to join the fray. Here's what happened to him though, coming into the bus stop, oof, makes contact to the back of John Leedy, and that's what slowed him down.
Good stuff, and it's certainly given us a good train of cars here. This usually explodes into action at the end of the Kemmel Straight. As Chinsky's got a good enough gap, he should be safe, but not Jansen. He's going to go side by side. Leighton might actually be boxed in a little bit here.
Ooh, big slide from Jansen through the middle of the corner, and contact with Leighton's going to send him off the road into the grass. No damage, no wall contact, but certainly some ego damage there, getting turned around. Pit stops begin though, Joe. Kwok Nin's kicking off the pit window from the top 5. Doing something a little bit early, potentially, to try and put himself in P4 conversation.
Yeah, I'm not sure if maybe he felt like he was in a battle where he was being held up, because usually you don't want to pit early. Could be that he had gotten a bit of damage and he felt like his straight line speed was hurt as we watch this fight down into La Source, and wow, round the outside, Darian Roy says, "I've had enough of this, goodbye."
I don't think you want to run side by side with Darian Roy through Eau Rouge and Radion, so Johnny Luna definitely happy to slot in line there. Will he be able to repay the favor into Lake Calm, though? Down the Kemmel Straight, that Acura is faster in a straight line. Is it going to be able to do anything, though? Darian blocks down to the bottom of the track. Luna's forced to do it the long way around. He's later on the brakes, though, and once again, Johnny Luna gets it ahead of Darian Roy. They intersect, though. Luna hangs onto the spot. Roy's off the road, and Nico Sanadakis says, "Thank you very much. I'll take both of those."
Wow. It's been an utterly miserable day for Roy, unfortunately. I think maybe he just needs to calm himself down a little bit. Yeah, he saw that car with a lot more speed and wanted to try and brake late, but that was a little bit too much. Although, well, that was bizarre. From that angle, it almost looked like he had the speed right and the other car just kind of slowed unusually.
They just kind of climbed over each other in the middle of the corner. Very awkward stuff, but yeah, Roy's going to be quite frustrated. Are we going to see any pit stops here? Does anybody follow the Kwok Nin lead? Sean Campbell says no, I'm on my own strategy. Pelshaw also says no. Ovando also says no. So definitely a unique pioneering strategy from Kwok Nin. We'll see if it pays off for him. Back to John Leedy and Rob Campbell, though. Leedy's had a few scary moments in his rearview mirror. Chinsky making contact with him a couple of laps ago, and now Rob Campbell trying to make something happen and get a little bit further forward. You're not used to seeing Rob Campbell this deep in the LMP2 field, and he's got to try and make something happen on track.
And Schwartz has just come in, so the 9 car is going to follow suit with Kwok Nin. Pelshaw is going to go side by side with Ovando. So finally, I think Boris said, "I've saved enough fuel. I think I can lead for a bit now and stop in." You always want to be the first into the pits if you're close in a battle there, because you can have that advantage in case you both stop at the same time. Sliding right there for Ovando.
A little bit of lost time there, and now the question is, does Boris have anything for Sean? Can he bring that gap down at all? Is he going to be able to do anything in the pits? That is the question that we've asked all season long, because we haven't said his name yet in this race so far, but Sean Campbell does boast a 5-second lead. He basically had control of this race from the beginning. Had the jump on the start, took John Rice with him for a couple of moments to get him up into second, but since then, it's been a spa track day for Sean, which is probably what we expected, but he's certainly keeping it consistent. He's doing usual Sean Campbell things.
Take one of the words out of there. It's just a spa day for Sean Campbell. He's relaxed out there and rifling off the laps. Impressive from Ovando, even with the him trailing behind another car. He's still within about 5 seconds, so it's not like he's been absolutely slapping the field around. But the 26 definitely looks like he's got good control here. As Caruso and Kerr also kind of in a similar situation, because Crow's only about 3 seconds back, and now we get some front runners in.
Yeah, Pelcha's in, but Ovando not. Split strategies from the Precision Racing Esports drivers, and the only Precision Racing Esports drivers, I should say, other than Karsten Quint. Unfortunately, their teammate Daniel Zegger's not here, Michael Diaz not here. Pelcha, though, up on the jacks. He is going to take tires. That's been sort of a new dynamic this season. Tires, very, very important, or not very, very important, but somewhat important. And it's definitely been a choice that most drivers in GTP have been making to take those, unless it comes to a late race pit stop, and you can potentially have enough time to hold on old tires. But when you're coming in with 20 minutes left to go, I don't think old tires were the choice for Pelcha.
Now, with the fuel tank levels, though, does that count for more? Because I noticed that Pat had 25 seconds, where Kwok Nin was only 20 seconds. So. If the fuel is a little bit quicker than those tires, then maybe that's going to be a bit of a question mark in that end.
Yeah, and that wasn't only a longer stop than Kwok, it was a longer stop than Nicholas Schwartz, who only came in a lap ago, 23 seconds. Yeah, maybe Pat being a little bit too conservative, maybe putting a little bit too much fuel in. I think we'll get our answer, though. Maybe if Boris Ovando comes in this lap to cover him off, we might get our answer there. But we'll wait a couple of moments to see that, because I do want to see this livery of Joshua Chinsky. It is very, very, it's beautiful, and I know that Joe's going to like it as well. Last May, Chinsky was in GT4, and he tried to run a Month of May tribute livery. Unfortunately, that was a time in sim racing where broadcasting Indy cars on RaceSpotTV was not very accepted as they run side by side for second. I'll let Craig Bray and Marco Jansen resolve their differences before continuing that. Oh my goodness, trying to make it side by side through Eau Rouge and Radillon. Bray does hold on to that, and we'll keep that going. But that This Is May livery, Joe, we can finally talk about the Indy 500 and Indy cars, both on iRacing in real life. I know Josh is excited. I'm excited too, flying out there in 2 days. I'll see you there, Josh.
That's even more gutting for me, because it's the first time I'll miss it since 2011, because I'm actually calling a different race in real life. Yeah.
Not oh no. Oh yes, in some ways, but oh no in some other ways.
In some ways, if I could, I would have gone, but I'm the new guy, so I thought, okay, I gotta show that I'm dedicated. So I'm off to Coda that weekend to call, but I'll be there in spirit.
There we go, and we're glad we can show Joshua Chinsky's Indianapolis Motor Speedway logos with full pride this year. Doug Bowles, if you're watching, you got a loyal soldier down there in Mr. Joshua Chinsky. Sean Campbell's pit stop, by the way, has not gone very well for him. He's stuck behind Karsten Quint now, and now John Rice and Pat Pelcha to tell you about Pat Pelcha's long stop. He's not in the fight for second anymore. He's simply fighting for third, trying to make sure that Rice doesn't steal it away from him. Under braking into Les Combes, trying to stay ahead is Rice, but I can tell you now that Pelcha has hung on, and now that we're back to live pictures, Pelcha has taken over third, and he'll look to run away after the long stop.
Yeah, he's definitely trying his best to make up for that unusually long stop there, but I feel like that was an error on his part. I don't know why his was so significantly longer. I mean, you even look at the Sean Campbell's, he was pushing air the whole time. He wasn't saving any fuel, and yet his was only 19 seconds.
Campbell going to go for the move on Quint? No, he's not. It's just like the Long Beach strategy with Sean. He had the opportunity to pass Jeff Evans for the race lead a couple of weeks ago and said, you know what? I don't really need to. I got a margin. I'll hang back. I'll save a little bit and make sure I go for a high percentage move. But he might have to go for it now, and he does. Karsten lifts out of it and lets Sean by. Ovando, though, this is going to be important. Before we take anything else, Joe, coming in from the lead, he's not going to gain 5 seconds on Sean based on how long Sean was stuck behind Quint, but he might gain a little bit, and it's especially going to be interesting to see where he emerges in comparison to his teammate Pat Pelshaw.
Exactly. If he can cut down enough that he's in the slipstream, that might make the difference. He's exiting now, but I think it's going to be just a little too late. Yeah, Sean Campbell's already up the roads, and he had almost exactly the same pit stop time.
There's Boris rejoining the racing surface, Pelshaw behind, and now, just because we can, just because we have this special camera, we're going to break the fourth wall a little bit. You may have noticed that when Pelshaw was passing John Rice, things got a little bit freezy, things got a little bit pixelated. This is why, as we check in live in the Dustin Ollis Race Spot headquarters, it's monsooning out there, Joe. I wish that's what was happening on track.
Yeah, no, iRacing hasn't implemented the real life weather translating to the track quite yet in the sim, but that would have been extremely difficult for these cars to be if it was raining that hard out there. But now that we've got Campbell and Ovando done with their pit stops, the gap is about 5.3 seconds. So I think nothing lost, nothing gained. But for Boris, that's bad news because he's got 15 minutes to try and cut down those 5 seconds, and I don't see that happening, honestly.
A change for the lead in LMP2 as we were looking at the weather cam. Zach Kerr has actually lost the lead finally to his teammate Alex Caruso. We have a new leader for the first time out of those Hyperion teammates as Wallace and Tyler Pierre Richards are going to try and resolve their differences through Arouge and Radion. Wallace is going to hang on to that. But what went on between the two Hyperion teammates? We've got to know now. They finally switched around. And not by a small margin either. I wonder if it was a mistake from Kerr that finally opened the door for his teammate to get back by.
It goes a little bit wide there coming down through No Name, but thankfully he'll come out the other side okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm very curious how this is going to work for the remainder of the race, as it looks like our temporary leader, Jeff Evans, giving the lead back to Sean Campbell in the GTPs for now. I mean, what's the last lap going to look like? Are the gloves going to come off?
I hope so. Alex Crow hopes so as well.
That's true.
And unfortunately, due to some technical difficulties, we're not actually going to be able to see what happened to Caruso and Kerr. That's the magic of the internet sometimes. That had nothing to do with the weather cam. That just had to do with the internet, unfortunately, having some trouble. But we'll definitely have live pictures for the rest of this battle, and we will see if Zach Kerr is able to make it happen again. If he's able to get back by Caruso, I think that'll be a great story from him. But these LMP2 drivers have been known to wait very, very long to make a pit stop, and just as I say that, Alex Caruso says, "You're wrong, I'm coming in early." Caruso kicks off the pit cycle in LMP2.
So I wonder if this is maybe his ploy to try and do the opposite of what his teammate is doing so that he can get some time alone, run some faster laps, get some distance. As is that Crow? Yep, that's Crow behind them. So he's following him in. And now it looks like Hedgecock's also in there. Kind of curious how far back Hedgecock's was after that. And wow, everybody pitting. So this might actually have been the end of the pit window for most cars, but Kerr saving enough fuel that he carries on an extra lap.
And Hedgecock's was up on the jacks there. I think that may have been a mistake from him. A couple of extra seconds lost. He does get going eventually, though. But here is your race leader now, Zach Kerr, going for the overcut of sorts. Just trying to find clean air, trying to make sure he can pull a couple of extra seconds on his teammate Caruso. Remember these numbers, though. Pit stop for Caruso, 14.8 seconds. Pit stop for Crow, identical, 14.8 seconds as well. Is Kerr going to have a slightly shorter stop with one less lap of fuel to put in the car? He's hoping the math works out, but he's got about half a track length to wait for that to happen.
Pretty much everybody in that lap. So yeah, that was the scheduled end of the pit window on a normal fuel stint. Only driver I'm seeing that didn't do that was Jeremy Carter in 124, who has stayed out. He pitted 7 laps ago.
You see the first traffic interactions of the day. It's not always guaranteed that they happen in this series with how close a GTP and an LMP2 are in some cases, but Sean Campbell has caught the back of the LMP2 field, and he'll at least have a couple of friends at the back of the field to play with. He'll have Jeff Fleischman, he'll have some other bad luck drivers to deal with there. But John Leedy and Rob Campbell, they have their own business to take care of. And look who's on the scene. The driver who qualified up front, who was sent to the back on lap 1, or lap 0 even. It was before the start-finish line that he threw it off the road at the bus stop. And now he's trying to recover into the top 5 as Zach Kerr, your race leader, is in.
Okay, so what's this going to look like on the other side here between the pair of them? With him going a lap longer, he obviously saved a bit more fuel, should have a slightly shorter stop, not dramatically a lot, but enough that maybe he could pull out ahead as his teammate is on the main straight. Zach is now out, but what is the pit stop time? Oh, my timing screwed up. Do you have it?
No, unfortunately, I think iRacing freaked out a little bit there. We're going to have to do things the old-fashioned way, the blend on pit exit. Kerr is going to come out ahead, but Caruso's got the momentum. Is he going to be able to make it happen into Eau Rouge? I don't think he's going to get there immediately, but he has momentum on his side. Up through Radion, down the Kemmel Straight. He's going to instantly have a chance to retake this lead from his teammate in the draft. He's going to be side by side already. He might even be clear into the braking zone. That is a ton of momentum and a huge run from Kerr. Caruso's going to be as late on the brakes as humanly possible, though, on the inside. Or Kerr, rather, on the inside. Caruso on the outside sweeps it around, and Alex Caruso retakes the race lead from his teammate. Down the hill, though, Zach hunting for an opportunity. He's going to have to do it the long way around at Bruxelles, though, and he's going to wait for another high percentage opportunity to go for that. Caruso takes the lead back.
Yeah, but Alex looks really out of sorts right now. He's had a number of bobbles in these last few corners. So I wonder what's going on with that car after that pit stop, that it's not handling all that great. And will that affect him later on? You know, I was wondering earlier about Hedgecox, if he could catch up to them after that early slowdown. Unfortunately, the answer is no. He's actually lost about a second. He's about 7 seconds back from the leaders.
Oh dear. Well, it's still going to be a good day in the championship for him, because we seem to say this about Jack Hedgecox all the time. Even when he has a bad race, it's still P4 or P3 or even P2. I remember last season, I don't remember where it was, but he got spun on lap 1, fell to the back of the field, still finished second. That is a driver who knows how to win championships, and that's why he's won the last 2 in an LMP2 car in the PRL. Even his bad days are still comparatively good. Oh, Jeremy Carter goes around after contact with Johnny Luna. Inner traffic interactions sends Jeremy Carter back to the back of the field. Jeff Evans falling down as well. Bad luck for both of them.
I think it was with Leedy there that Carter had his little bit of a touch, and that was heading through pit path, and that's going to send him backwards. So 124 just having a horrible day. Unfortunately, is not even, looks like not even top 10 for him, 15th. Yeah, you'll see. Yeah, it was this one though. I kind of put a little bit more on him. That was maybe a bit ambitious.
Yeah, frustrated driver, looking forward and maybe taking a little bit too much, or a little bit more than he actually needed there. He was on a good recovery drive. He was up into the top 10. Wanted that little bit more, and the Benke Media car unfortunately meets its demise and falls back to the back of the field. Battle for P5 though. Haven't talked much about Nathan Ray today, which is kind of a rarity. He's usually very much in the conversation, but he's been quiet, he's been calm, and he's put himself in a great position to steal P5 away from Kwok Nin in what could be a critical battle in that fight for P2 in the championship.
Yeah, so every point matters here. You can't rest on your laurels. And it's not going to get the best of exits, but once again, we'll see they punch such a big hole in the air that while it hurts them here through Eau Rouge, as long as you can hang tough, watch them just reel them back in, hand over fist.
They've got all of that traffic up ahead. Nathan Mon, Andrew Venaro, Eddie Layton, and Jeff Fleischman running side by side. They get lucky, though. It's just one car to pass immediately. Kwok to the outside of Mon. Ray has to do exactly the same thing. That screwed both of them over. You know who's very happy to see that, though? Bradley Holly, who's also fighting with these two guys for second in the championship. Suddenly, it's a 3-car battle for P5.
Brad's been a little bit anonymous in this race compared to how we usually see him run here in the PRL, but a 7th still nothing to shake a stick at, especially in the faster class here, but let's see what he can do with these two, especially since they're kind of distracted with one another right now.
And they're going to be not too happy with what they're seeing ahead. Eddie Layton and Jeff Fleischman were running side by side for basically the entirety of the lap, but just as they do catch them, they are single file. Andrew Venaro is the first driver for Kwok to pass, coming into Stavelo this time. We'll see Bradley Holly third in line here. He is he's in the full blue today. I think he's in some kind of Star Wars mood. I couldn't tell you what it is, but it is 2 days after May the 4th, so I guess he's extra thematic today, and he's going to be looking for a move. I don't know if there's anywhere on the road to actually make a move, though. He's totally blocked off.
Was a bit scary there, because to his outside was Jeff Fleischman, who was trying to get out of the way in the LMP2 as they carry on. And once again, all that lap traffic just proving a bit of a headache. Eddie Layton going to be able to get out of the way, but look at the damage done as Ray gets himself about 5 car lengths up the road.
Oof, little wiggle into turn 1 for Brad there. That's going to scupper his momentum off the corner. And that'll allow all 3 of these drivers, I think, to breathe for just a moment. They're not 3 cars under a blanket. They've got a little bit of margin. They could focus on bringing that all together. These guys don't have a moment to breathe, though. These Moradness cars have been going at it. It was Fleischman first. Now it's Craig Bray a little bit deeper up in the order, battling with Marco Jansen for the last spot in the top 10.
Yeah, they've got our third-place driver in the GTP's quickly approaching behind, so he could play a factor in this battle as well. If you're Bray, you want to try and time it to allow him through in a time that's convenient for you, and then hope that he'll try and get aggressive on Jansen. And this is a decent spot coming out of Puhan. He's not going to lose as much, but now he needs to stay tucked right behind the 22.
Darian Roy fans are going to be crying a little bit, because unfortunately, after his up and down day, he has unfortunately met his demise and has brought that car back down pit lane. Here it is, coming down the hill. Oof! That is unfortunate for Darian Roy. Down in LMP2, though, got to take away from this, because Caruso and Zach Kerr side by side for the lead in LMP2, coming into Eau Rouge and Radion. This battle's not over. Caruso's taken the lead back. He hangs on, but Kerr is in position to do exactly what Caruso did to him a couple of laps ago.
This all started with a bad exit out of the bus stop for Caruso. He spun the tires, and they've been side by side almost since. They get single file here down the Kimmel Straight, ironically, where you'd expect them to go wheel to wheel, and it looks like Caruso will hold on to it, but boy, is he feeling the pressure, and you can tell the way that he is stretching the limits of the track.
That was weird, though. Into the braking zone at Lake Com, Kerr lifted early, so I wonder, was that a little bit of conservatism from him to make sure that he didn't take his teammate out, or was that potentially a little bit of fuel saving? Because we don't actually know how much fuel he put in the car. The timing gods kind of screwed us there. We don't know if he's short on fuel or correct on fuel. Nathan Ray and Kwok Nin, though, side by side through Eau Rouge and Radion. They were close to turning each other through the second half of the corner, and I think Kwok might get a slowdown for that, for being a little bit too far off the track. Bradley Holly says thank you very much, and he's going to go for the 2-for-1 special around the outside on Nathan Ray through Lake Com. Bradley Holly says thank you very much, clears Nathan Ray for good measure.
It's not over. Nathan's got a chance to try and fight back on the inside through Rivage, but deep on the brakes. That seems to be the strength of Bradley Holly, because he sent it from way far back there into Lacombe, and they actually made contact coming through Malmedy. There was no quarter asked nor given.
That was the move of the season, I think, from Bradley Holly, and he's only 3 points behind Nathan Ray in the championship right now for second. That could be what decides second at the end of the season. Into La Source this time, though. I think it's going to be 2 laps to go for our LMP2 runners. Kerr sends a dive on his teammate into turn 1 from a little bit far back, and he's actually going to have a nose ahead for just a moment. Tries to get in the side draft, is forced to slot back in line. Is he going to actually be able to make something happen into Lake Home this time, or is he going to have to lift off and save fuel like the previous lap? Does he have the straight line speed? Does he have the lack of downforce to make this happen? Here comes Kerr, second in line, trying to make it happen legitimately this time.
I just didn't get a big enough run. Caruso defensive still because he's got the overlap, but yeah, I didn't think he was going to be able to hold on to that one. So Alex back to the front once again. Oh, this is going to be tough for him to hold him off all the way to the end, even though it's only 2 laps, as we got more action here between Nin again.
This has been the battle of the season with Ray, Nin, and Holly. These guys have put on shows all season long. We've got to go to the Mystery Science Theater 3000 double screen here with all these battles. Kerr and Caruso at the top of your screen. Ray, Nin, and Holly down at the bottom. After the move of the season for Holly, he's actually lost both of those spots, and he's going to try and go for at least one more of those on Kwok Nin into Lake Com. He's got Caleb Lehman in that bright yellow LMP2 car to deal with first, though.
It's getting really tight. Kwok making some crazy
Nin in the grass
moves.
to the inside.
And they're going to make contact once again. I think Kwok might lose his spot to Holly, who's going to try to go around the outside. No, he cuts back and he gets balked.
And Caleb Lehman said, nope, I am taken to the grass here. You guys can do whatever you want. I want no part in this. That was crazy. You could even see from that helicopter view that Kwok was full commitment. He was using parts of the track that haven't even been paved yet. He was paving his own roads, and didn't quite work out for him, but you're going to see that aggression only ramp up over these final couple of miles, as I think we're going to take the white flag this time. Alex Caruso still ahead of Kerr as we blink back into existence. Holly knows it's white flag at the line. He's only got a couple more chances to go for it. These guys have 2 more laps. That's how the timing's gone, but time's running out, Joe.
Are they going to be caught, though? Because Campbell just went by. I guess the lap times are too similar that maybe he's a bit too far back to catch them. So, yeah, I think you're right. Good call. They're going to get a whole extra lap here.
And even if Sean was close enough, normally we have him available for a mid-race interview. I would have told him to stick behind him to give him an extra lap. But there's more pressing things down to the bottom of your screen. Bradley Holly and Kwok Nin, full body contact, full contact sports car racing. And who's going to be the bravest into the bus stop? They're identically brave. And Nathan Ray ahead. I think that's a drive-through. I think that's 13 incident points that takes Nathan Ray out of this battle.
It absolutely is. He's got a black flag next to his name. They're going to go wheel to wheel. These two now got to be careful that they don't suffer the same fate. Kwok goes a little bit wide himself, and that allows Holly up to the lead.
And this is a gift for these guys. Ray has not taken his drop week yet. His drop week was a fairly normal week last week, or a couple of weeks ago in round 4, where he finished, I think, about 6th or 7th or something. But we've got trouble for somebody deeper in the order. John Rice has gotten into trouble at Lake Com, totally stopped on the exit of the corner. Doesn't lose any spots, though. He had enough of a margin back to Holly that he's going to be okay. No damage on that car. He'll be able to hold on to P4, but this is not over. I think it might come down to the bus stop, Joe. I think it might come down to one final dive from Kwok if he can stay close enough. But here's what happened to John Rice, first and foremost.
Yeah, it was self-inflicted, unfortunately. Just kind of spun himself into Lacombe as I think Sean Campbell is getting ready to come through Blanchimont.
Indeed he is. It has been a very quiet day for Sean Campbell, as it usually is. It has truly been a spa day, but we'll give him a little bit of glory. We'll give him a little bit of a shout out as he reaches Jack Hedgecox and a few others in the final lap. He's going to let them go for one more lap. And yet again in the PRL, it is a 100% winning record in this series for Sean Campbell, and it's a big number. 30 wins in the PRL now for Sean. Take the glory, take the spoils. We'll talk to Sean in a couple of minutes, but we got more pressing things to take care of here, Joe, because Alex Caruso and Zach Kerr, they've still got one more lap to go, and this comes down to the final lap. Trouble for Karsten Quint and the end of the in the field in GTP, but we've got the pass for the lead potentially down to the bottom of your screen. Caruso on the inside, Kerr on the outside. Who could be braver on the brakes into Lake Com for the final time? Caruso stays ahead. Kerr's got a nose to the inside, though, through the middle of the corner. Caruso's back on the inside with the switchback. Still gives his teammate room, though. Side by side into Bruxelles. Still, it's much harder to run side by side through here. Kerr's later on the brakes, though. More momentum with a banked run to the outside, and Zach Kerr takes the lead away from his teammate.
I was going to say they need to be careful. Don't overstep the limits. They made contact coming out of there. Caruso had momentum, but no place to take it. He might have actually gotten a bit of damage from that.
Caruso's going to have one more shot into the bus stop. He has to make sure to stay as close as humanly possible to his teammate, but through Fania or Piff Path, whatever you want to call it for the final time, Caruso seems to be getting a little bit hot under the collar. Lost a couple of tenths through there. Through Stavolo for the final time. Loses another tenth or so. He may have lost his opportunity. The damage may have been hurting him. And with an aggressive move, Zach Kerr may have just stolen this on the final lap.
I'm pretty sure Caruso damaged the nose of that car. We can't see anything, but he's suddenly off pace. It looks like Zach got lucky.
And Zach Kerr in the number 16. We haven't seen him all season long despite all the hype to start things, but through the bus stop for the final time, keeps it under control, keeps it under the brakes, and out of the final corner. And his season debut, Zach Kerr wins in LMP2, and it's a 1-2 for Hyperion Racing. His teammate Alex Caruso comes home in second, and that's going to put these guys back in Teams Championship conversation.
Wow. That got really intense. I mean, the number one rule is don't wreck your teammate. They came dangerously close to that. But the body language after they finished to me said that it didn't look like there was any ill feelings between them and seemed pretty happy about that fight.
Caruso and Crow having a little bit of an end of race wrestling match there, but I think that's all in good fun. Kerr gets his chance to do a little bit of a burnout. He's got enough fuel left in the tank to do that. But that'll be the end of racing action tonight, and we do have your finishing results, and we also critically have the incident points we can talk about. It got very close for some drivers. Sean Campbell was not one of those drivers. He had a very boring day, only 3 incident points. Dare I call him Yawn Campbell today. Pat Pelshaw came home in second. Solid result from him after winning the battle over his teammate Boris Ovando. John Rice had an exciting final lap, but still finished 4th for his efforts. And Bradley Holly, at the end of it all, won the battle over Kwok Nin. P5 for him. In a bad day for Nathan Ray, that could put Bradley Holly in 2nd in the championship. Kwok could be in 3rd. Nicholas Schwartz, great day from him as well, might put him 4th in the championship. And Jeff Evans, 3rd of the Whataback drivers, but a strong top 8 from him. Nico Sanadakis up into the top 10. Ends his day in P9, and Nathan Ray, a penalty for reaching 13 incident points, took him out of contention and took him down to P10. Karsten Quint and Johnny Luna were the last 2 drivers on the lead lap. Carter James unfortunately ended up 1 lap down after some late trouble. Darian Roy wrecked, and Stephen Verity, unfortunately, another car in the used car lot, an early crash, took him out of contention 14 laps ago. Zach Kerr and Alex Caruso, though, I don't know if my timing's totally accurate, but what my timing is showing me is that these 2 guys were on 12 incident points on that final lap. They were on a razor's edge of getting away with that, but they did. A 1-2 for that team, and Zach Kerr coming home with his first win ever in the PRL. Alex Crow rounded off the podium. That'll be good news for him in his championship battle with Jack Hedgecox, who did finish P4, and then all of these drivers weren't actually a lap down. That's just how your race leader Sean Campbell caught them. But Chip Michaels, excellent day from him. Got him a P5 at the end of it all. Wallace, Pierre Richards, Rob Campbell, Leedy, and Bray rounded out the top 10. Marco Jansen was P11 ahead of Caleb Lehman. Jeremy Carter, we know the story from him. What might have been a potential podium ends in unlucky 13th. Venaro, Leighton, Mon, and Chinsky brought us down to the end of the lead lap finishers. Jeff Fleischman 2 laps down, Dino Vella 3 laps down, Josh Goen 4 laps down, and then we start to get into the used car lot of heavier damaged vehicles. Andrew Wood, not the best day from him, and John Krauser early on and early out. But it is about time to get to talk to our drivers. We don't have our race winner Sean Campbell yet. We will in a matter of moments. We will get to talk to him, but before we get to do that, let's talk to our winner in LMP2. Joe Peak is going to talk to our debut victor, Zach Kerr.
Indeed, and Zach, we just found out that it sounds like your incident points were a bit close at the end. I thought that you 2 separated because maybe Alex had gotten some damage on the nose and couldn't keep up with you. Did you guys separate because you were worried if you fought intensely, you'd both be DQ'd there?
I don't think either of us realized the incident points. I only realized it now looking, but I think I knew my chance and I just had to go for it if I wanted the win. So I gave it my all, and we had a little bit of contact, but it was mainly not good, I feel like.
We thought that maybe you 2 would have a little bit of strategy play and try to save fuel, yet you came out equal on the pits. Were you trying to lift and coast at any point during that, or was Alex?
I started to lift and coast about 4 or 5 laps in, and then Alex was just out front, so I thought I'd leave him there to burn up his fuel. And he took an extra lap and still came out equal, which surprised me.
That is wild to think about. This was an absolute stunner to watch between the 2 of you. I mean, how do you follow this up next week?
I don't know, I just got to try and be similar pace to Alex again, and hopefully give him a good battle again.
Well, we hope to see you two going at it once more. Congratulations on a victory in the 16 car tonight.
Thank you.
Zach Kerr there taking the win. Joey, who have you got to chat to next?
We do have, with a little bit of cajoling and a little bit of coaxing, we do have our GTP winner, Sean Campbell. Sean, I agree with what you told me. You said you didn't really have anything to talk about after the race today. It seemed like it was pretty straightforward from your end, but it's a GTP car at Spa. Is that ever truly boring?
No, honestly. There's so much going on since you have to set it up fast, right? You have to set it up fast in a straight, so it's kind of scary in the corners. But fun. It's fun.
Exactly. And I assume you've turned more laps in a GT3 car around here. I assume that's where you're really just locked in. You can do it with your eyes closed, but how does setting it up for a GTP car compare, considering we don't have like a full endurance event? We don't have a big sports car event at Spa on the calendar usually.
I mean, I don't know. It's GT3 usually go a lot more low downforce, but I'm pretty sure in LMDH you don't actually change the downforce. It depends. There are a lot of places where you can go lower downforce, but not like GT3 where you're never running max almost ever.
All right, one more one-word answer to this question. Do you wish it rained today?
Yes.
Correct answer. Sean Campbell, your race winner. Oh, also, I forgot to tell you, this was your 30th win in the PRL.
Yeah, it actually did rain earlier today, and it killed my internet mid-race.
Oh, no, I think it might have been the same rain that got Dustin.
That's probably what it is.
All right, Mr. 30, Sean Campbell, victorious today. Aren't we glad we dragged him in for an interview? Yes, we are. But we'll go down to second place in LMP2 now. Joe Peak is with Alex Caruso.
Indeed, as we catch up with Alex, Zach said that he was not aware about how close the incident points were until I mentioned it to him in the interview. Are you the same position? Did you know that things got that tight?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of keeping an eye on it. I was using them a little bit liberally to try and gain some speed on the outside of, what is that? I think it was turn 9. That one where you can kind of take a little bit of the AstroTurf on the outside. So I was using those deliberately. I kind of left a little bit of breathing room there at the end because I figured Zach would try and do something. He is a racer at heart, and that's why I love racing with him. So it's always a good battle when we get to share the track. So I figured something was coming, and I'm glad I prepared for it.
And you then found yourself falling off of him after that battle on that last lap. Now, at first I thought it was maybe some damage that you got on the nose from the contact. Was it that, or was it the incident points and backing off?
No, it was actually just the tires. I was still pushing that entire lap. Yeah, I got a tire warning with about 2 or 3 laps to go. So I could just feel the grip drop off pretty dramatically after that. So I was just trying to push as much as I could with what I had left. And I might have picked up a little bit of damage from the incident. It looked like we had a little bit of net code or something going into the Lacombe. So I'm not sure if I picked up a little bit of damage from there. But yeah, I definitely had a lot more understeer after the little battle that we had.
Yep. You guys also almost had a lap less. Could you see Sean Campbell quickly approaching in the background? Did you want that extra lap, or did you wish it ended a lap earlier?
No, I think it would have been probably the same outcome either way. I figured Zach would try something on the last lap there, and we bang doors occasionally, so I figured it would be a little argy-bargy there, and it was. So I would have made the same decision in his situation. He had kind of paced the entire race, and he was just sitting in my draft. We both made setups for our cars this week, and his was a little faster in the corners, and mine was a little faster on the straights. So he got the benefit of sitting in my draft for the entire race, and I'm sure he was frustrated behind me for the infield section of everything. So yeah, it kind of went as I was expecting. I did see Sean coming up on us, and my fuel calculator was bouncing back and forth between that extra lap or not. But I figured we would go 1 lap or we wouldn't, and the outcome would probably be the same on the last lap.
Well, it's amazing how much you were able to track at the same time with an intense race like that. Congratulations on a podium today, though.
Yeah, thanks guys, I appreciate it. Big shout out to Hyperion, specifically Floyd Kerr. I did a bunch of practice with him before the race came up. A lot of those defensive moves that I pulled out of the bag were thanks to him. So big shout out to the guys back at home, and couldn't do it without them as always. I always love racing with Hyperion, and thanks for the opportunity, and thanks for the broadcast again, guys. It's always a pleasure.
That was Alex Caruso, second place in the LMP2s. Joey?
And by the way, in case anyone was wondering and you couldn't tell by the accents, even though they are teammates, Zach Kerr and Floyd Kerr, not actually related. It's one of those things. But next up, we've got who else but Mr. Practice Pelshaw. Pat Pelshaw's back with us. And Pat, you were keeping touch with Sean, I think, in the first stint there. 5 seconds gap was staying pretty similar, but what was it like with Boris trying to negotiate that strategy and switching around a couple times?
It was hard. Made some changes before the start of the race to the set, which I probably shouldn't have. So Boris was running the original version of it, and I ran some changes to it, and it didn't really pay off. Boris had kind of a good pace in my draft. He was keeping up, and at some point he went by, and that's when I decided to pit and take tires. Sean was just probably managing his pace, seriously. Like, he was clearly not pushing, because he would have finished probably another 10 seconds ahead.
Laguna Seca's coming up next week. I know that's, I'm sure that's a place where you have a lot of experience. How are you feeling about that? The difficulty of the rolling California hills after Spa.
It's gonna be chaos, in my opinion, but it's gonna be cool. It's a track that we don't really go often. Like, it's been a long time since I've raced there. I ran the track a lot, so I think it should be all right. Let's go for a podium and maybe a win if something happens.
Well, Pat, another second for you, another podium. Congrats, and we'll see you there at Laguna next week.
Hell yeah, thank you guys.
Pat Pelshaw, Mr. Practice himself, coming home second, and honestly putting himself in conversation for second in the championship as well. But we do have time. One more quick interview. Finish off the podium in LMP2. Another Alex C is with Joe P.
It's Alex Crow finishing with the top three, but Alex, I'm afraid to say you didn't get much screen time because we were so focused on those top two fighting. Was it a dull race from your perspective? I mean, a dull but a good finish, I imagine.
It was not quite dull because I had just as good of a view as you guys did, sitting right behind them a few seconds back. I wish I was a little bit closer so I could watch, but no, I know those two had a little bit of pace on me. I didn't think I was going to catch them, but I had to keep pushing because I knew Jack was coming up behind me. He finished just over a second behind me by the end there. But it was a good race overall. I kept it clean. I think P3 was the best I really could have done there with Zach and Alex taking off.
Well, and on top of that, you inherited that P3 very early. When you saw Jack go off, were you worried that he'd catch back up to you by the end? It looks like he nearly did in the end.
Yeah, he was definitely getting close. I think I was just keeping enough distance towards the end to keep him out of my slip. As soon as I saw him go off, I was like, oh, well, I'm not going to sit P4 the whole race. I'm going to sit P3 the whole race. So it was a nice surprise going down Camel.
Well, if you can manage to repeat that next time, it could be useful. We're going to Laguna Seca. What's the likelihood of you managing to get that valuable track position?
Yeah, Laguna Seca is a very difficult track, very different from Spa. It's super tight. If you stick one wheel off, you might be losing 4 or 5 seconds at any time. I think it's going to be a big battle of who can keep it on track, similar to how Imola was earlier this season. Hopefully not as wet as Imola.
Yeah, not as likely out in the desert, but you never know. But congratulations, Alex. An excellent and measured drive to third today.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe.
Alex Crow finishing P3 in LMP2s, which I think, Joey, should wrap us up.
I think it will. A long night of racing. We had an extra 10 minutes or so at the Nordschleife. How crazy was that to start things off with Jason Drescher and Aiden Young coming home with wins, and then our favorite bit of Spa action, teammate battles, dominance up at the front, Sean Campbell coming home with the win in GTP, and Zach Kerr coming home with his first win in the PRL down in LMP2. There will be more action. There will be more PRL action tomorrow night on RaceSpotTV. The GT3 series, both fixed and sprint, will be taking on Bathurst, and I hear a little rumor it's going to be raining at Bathurst, so definitely tune in for that tomorrow night. RaceSpot PRL action all nights of the week. Will be at Algarve next week in this series, taking on Portimao in the GTPs, or not taking on the GTPs in the LMP2s. It'll be LMP3s and GT4s down at Portimao, and GTPs and LMP2s will be at Laguna Seca. So we hope we'll see you then. We hope to see you tomorrow night for Bathurst rain action. But until then, I've been Joey Tebben. Joe Peak's been Joe Peak. Our producer's been Dustin Allis. Until we see you next time, so long.